Okay, call this meeting to order. Do we report out? Anything to report out, Kimberly?
No, the council convened in closed session as noted on the agenda to review a liability claim, but there is no reportable action.
Okay. Thank you. All right, can we have the roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Farmer,
Here.
Councilmember Sandu, Councilmember Campion. Here. Councilmember Lozano.
Here.
Mayor Lamson.
Here. All right, can we please stand for the silent prayer? Would you like to lead us in the flag salute, Mr. Farmer?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, would you like to replay statement?
This meeting of the Galt City Council will be cablecast on Metro Cable 14, the Local Government Affairs channel on the Comcast, Consolidated Communications, and AT&T UVerse cable systems. The meeting is closed captioned and webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. Today's meeting will air Friday, February 8th at 9 a.m. and Saturday, February 9th at 9 a.m. The City Council meeting videos are also archived on the city's website. A DVD copy is available for checkout from any library branch.
Thank you. Are there any agenda additions or deletions? All right, we'll move on to presentations. Subject, Economic Development presentation by Miss Amy Mendez, our Economic Development Manager. Sorry. We could read the public comment. Should we read the public comment? Go ahead and read the public comment while we're waiting, if you don't mind.
Not at all. Under Government Code Section 54954.3, members of the public may address the City Council on non-agenda items. The public comment section is for the City Council to receive comments, except for brief responses to questions. No discussion or action may be taken on any item that is not listed on the agenda. Please limit comments to a maximum of 5 minutes. Speakers' cards are located on the table inside the entrances to the council chambers. Once completed, forward the speaker card to the clerk. Those persons wishing to speak on any item scheduled on the agenda will be given an opportunity to do so at the time the item is being considered.
Okay. Ms. Mendez? No, we'll do it after she does it.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. This evening, I am here to provide you with a brief economic development update, a little bit of an overview in regard to economic development and what I've been working on, but also just economic development in general, sort of what my position encompasses. So, special projects, kind of something that really comes with direction from council as it relates to our strategic plan, industrial and business retention, retail attraction, and tonight we have a speaker from HDL, Barry Foster, that handles some of the retail recruitment efforts to really offset some of the time that I can dedicate to these special projects. As it relates to special projects, really, as I mentioned, this comes directly from our strategic plan, sort of items that are important to council, that we are focusing on sort of big picture-wise as we move into the future of development for Galt. Wayfinding signage is one that really wasn't part of the strategic plan, but what happened was we received some funding from the county, and so this was, I think, an important aspect of keeping the small town charm, but also wanting to brand the city a little bit more, clean up some of the signage that directional signage we have leading to the Galt Market, leading to some of the public facilities. So we are in the process right now. We have an RFP that we sent out, and we have a consultant that we're working with right now on that project. Incentive programs is one that has really become prime in business attraction and trying to bring new businesses into the community. Infill was an item identified as part of the strategic plan, and so infill incentive programs have really been key. We had the residential infill fee reduction that was recently implemented and adopted by council. The La Quinta Inn and Suites fee reduction that was approved just a couple of weeks ago in order to facilitate the construction of the La Quinta Hotel and Inn and Suites. We had the statewide community infrastructure program that was adopted in June, and that really was a financing mechanism for infill development and residential in particular. The last one is, right now, we're currently researching ways that we can potentially reduce the sewer fee as it relates to infill development. And so that's something that with the Public Works Department and our city attorney, we are kind of identifying ways that we can help businesses offset that cost as it relates to infill development. And then last one is the Galt Market Master Plan, and that really came out of the strategic plan in terms of the grant that the city received for master planning that project, and so focusing on potential redevelopment for that site. One of the things that I do focus on day in and day out really is industrial and retail activity. On the industrial front, really working with businesses that are looking to expand, but also looking at vacancies that are out there and what's available. And so, for instance, right now on the market, we've had a tight industrial market in Galt, and that's something that's been ongoing for several years since I've been here. We do have about 3 buildings for lease. They range from 1,800 square feet to 50,000 square feet, and that 50,000 square foot building is kind of an anomaly. There is a lease out for signature right now, and I think that we'll see a new business coming in and occupying that building. But the 1,800 square feet, we just don't have a lot on the market in terms of small industrial, and so that's been something that we have struggled with a little bit. For sale, there's 1 building for sale in Galt on the industrial market. There was 1 identical building in the same location that is in escrow right now, so things are getting really scooped up pretty quick in this market. We just don't have a lot of vacancy. And then in industrial land, there are some parcels available for development. What we've run into is that they're either really difficult access-wise, there's infrastructure that's needed, or they are too small really for development purposes on the industrial end. We do have a lot of businesses that actually are in the industrial park that have excess land, and they're not willing to let that go. And so we do have some land that's vacant, but there's no interest in having that developed because businesses are looking potentially to expand in the future. So I do connect with the brokers who are leasing these projects or who have these buildings for sale to find out who they're talking to, who's interested, in ways that I might be able to help facilitate occupying that location with a new business. We work with community development really on a daily basis in terms of what's allowed in terms of zoning, incentives that we might be able to offer that are available at the state level, and just trying to really make those connections in order to really grow our job base. One of the other things that I focus on is business retention, and I think lately we have turned our focus a little bit more to being reactive on the business retention side, and that's because we've had some things that we have really tried to get in front of with regard to industrial users specifically, one being the sewer rate increase. wanting to make sure that our businesses were aware what was coming and potential ways that we could help mitigate those increases in costs. And so that's been sort of the focus on business retention, but I do think that as we move into the strategic planning session, there should be some discussion about involving council as part of that process and really engaging our businesses so they understand that we, A, appreciate them being here, but try and find ways that we can help them expand if that's something they're looking to do in the future. And with business retention, really the focus has always been on sales tax generators. That's a big one for us, wanting to make sure that we can maintain those businesses and they want to stay here in Galt. But also, you know, our downtown folks, our retail, wanting to engage all of them across the board so that they feel like they're valued in the community. Business retention-wise, as it relates to kind of what I do when I go out, if it's not in being reactive with regards to an increase in fees, we try to make sure that our businesses are aware of what incentives are out there, what programs are available, what resources are there to really help them offset costs that might be affecting their business, or how to expand if there's resources they need for financing, but really making sure that they have all the information they need as it relates to continuing their business. Now, on the retail front, with regard to the industrial, I reach out to the brokers, I talk to them on a regular basis. I really do the same thing on the retail front as it relates to vacancies that are out there and potential fits for some of the vacant spaces that we have. And so these are just some of the brokers who represent the shopping centers in the community, one of them being a downtown location, and then Twin Cities and Carroll Drive. On the retail front, we don't have a lot of vacancy as it relates to shopping center space, and so with Galt Village, there is one vacancy that's been there for several months now, and it's the Dollar Tree space that was vacated. What we run into with that location is just that it's kind of a unique footprint. There's not a lot of users in that 6,000 square foot range, and so it's been a tough one to backfill. There's been lots of 1,000, 2,000 square foot users that are interested, but this space is a little bit unique in its size. And so we will be at ICSC, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, in Monterey in a couple of weeks, and really pushing this location because it's one of the few vacancies that we have on the retail side. And so we want to make sure that we can fill that with a retailer that meets the needs of the community and not just some type of office space user or something that may locate in there just by virtue of the fact that there's nothing else available. There is a 4,000 square foot out parcel pad that's available in front of the Comfort Inn and Suites. Now that the GNC septic building has been torn down, it's visible. You can actually see the location a little bit better, and so I think that helps us on the marketing side. One of the constraints on that location is just parking. It's tight with parking, and circulation will be a little bit rough. So we're going to have to be creative in sort of who we go after and target for that space. We do have Starbucks that's open, finally. When I first started here in Galt 3 years ago, it was just announced, and we thought, oh, this is a slam dunk. We're going to be ready to go, and it's been 3 years and 3 months, I think, now that we finally are up and running with Starbucks, and now we have an application for a second one. So Arco is under construction, and also Gilly's Car Wash is under construction. And I think that the car wash is really a great fit for that location in terms of the fact that it's a very unique size, that there's a Caltrans easement that runs a big portion of the front of it, and so having it be long, and they were able to really site plan the site, I think, uniquely, and so it's a good fit for that. We had lots of people look at it, but it was just difficult for access, and just kind of the size footprint was a little bit difficult to work with. On Carillion Corners, which is the Tractor Supply Center on Twin Cities, there is no vacancy. That is completely full. They do have one pad site remaining. It's about 1.5 acres that's just south of Rite Aid. And so we do have a few interested parties. We've had meetings with different developers who are looking to develop that space, but nothing's been submitted and nothing's come to fruition there yet. But I do imagine that because of the lack of vacancy, that will be coming within the next couple of months. The same owner of the Carillion Corner space owns the property to the east across Carillion on Twin Cities. That's about 11.5 acres that's vacant. The difficulty with that location, it's a really large retail site, which is great, but you really need an anchor there in order to start that project. And when we talk to different retailers for the Galt area, everybody wants to be on the freeway. And so this is sort of more of a neighborhood center, and there is just not a demand for that large of a space off of the freeway. We do still have the Simmerhorn commercial site that we're marketing. It's 45 acres and large retail site. We've been working with the developer for a couple of years now. There's some needed infrastructure out there. One thing that they're really pushing is just to have an anchor for that location, and you're not finding a lot of these big box retailers building new construction anymore. And so that's been a little bit of a hindrance on that property. And it's not a large REIT that owns the site, and so the development on the capital side is a little bit slow. In Old Town, we do have quite a bit of activity, which is exciting, I think, for the Old Town area. The little farmhouse is going to be opening within the next few months, and Papa's and Wings is under construction on C and Lincoln. There are a few remaining storefronts that I think once you start to create that synergy and you get a little bit more on the restaurant side, you'll start to see some of those fill in. With the retail attraction efforts, this is pictures from the ICSC show in Monterey. So the International Council of Shopping Centers show is a kind of a regional show that is for Northern California. And the nice thing about this show, it's a shopping center trade show, lots of retailers and brokers that are there, is that it's regional for Northern California. So most of the retailers that are there and brokers that are there are familiar with Galt. They know where we're located, and it makes it a little bit easier when you're trying to sell a community and they kind of know where you're at and you're on a freeway and you've lots of freeway frontage area. So we will be, Barry's a consultant with HDL, will be at ICSC in a few weeks in March and meeting with retailers and really trying to get some interest in the community as it relates to fast casual and some of those soft goods users that we're really missing in the community. Speaking of HDL, Econ Solutions is a division of HDL, and HDL currently provides services to the city for sales tax revenue analysis. They do audit of our sales tax allocations from the different users in the community. They provide budget forecasts and projections as it relates to sales tax. And they also have the economic development arm, which is Econ Solutions. And so in an effort to offset some of the time that I was dedicating to retail attraction, we brought in Econ Solutions because they do have access to the city's sales tax information. They know what our retailers are generating on a sales tax basis. They also know the leakage that we have, and I think that's something this evening that Barry's going to touch on, is the fact that there is significant leakage in this community. A lot of our residents are spending money in cities surrounding us, not in our community. And that's more because there's a lack of the retail selection that our residents are looking for. And so Lodi primarily is capitalizing off of that. They're Costco, they're Home Depot, they're different users that you don't find here, Sprouts and Dick's Sporting Goods and Boot Barn. Those are all locations that people are easy to access from the community. And so lots of our sales tax is actually being spent there, unfortunately. And Barry will touch on that a little bit. But really, what Barry Foster has done is help offset my time as it relates to retail attraction, and he has that sales tax information. He's able to make a case for the community, sort of an outsider that is looking in to basically tell these retailers and explain to them what the benefits are of coming to the community of Galt. And with that, I will turn it over to Barry so that he can go over some of what he's discovered in the community of Galt, but also some of the recommendations that he has moving forward as it relates to our contract with them. Barry?
Good evening. Excited to be here tonight and talk to you a little bit about retail attraction and kind of what our company does when we come in and help a city. And it's nice to see some of the things that Amy's talking about in terms of what she's doing from an economic development standpoint. I think sometimes cities focus too much on trying to attract new redevelopment or attract new development and new retail, and they forget to focus on what they have and trying to retain and expand those things. And that's really important for a community, and I applaud her and you folks for focusing on that. You can't just grow, you got to keep what you have too, and not lose that stuff. So I think that's really, really important. So my background is I worked in California for 23 and a half years for 4 different cities. My last couple, I was the Community and Economic Development Director. My last city was a city of 200,000 in Southern California. So been in this business for a long, long time. I went and worked for a number of different developers, and then I've always known the folks at HDL, and they wanted to start up a division of the company to focus on economic development. HDL's been around for 35 years. They're one of the leading sales tax and property tax consultants in California, and they thought this was a good step, was to do economic development. So started up the company a little over 4.5 years ago. We've done work for probably 60-some cities. We're currently working for about 35, 36 different cities, and so we customize a program to really fit the needs of our client, the city, and so we do a lot of retail attraction. So we're doing work all over the city, and so as Amy talked about, we can leverage the database that we have with all that information. We have sales tax information for over 99% of the businesses in California. So we know that when a retailer or a restaurant, we know where their best stores are, and so we can look at trying to match communities to, from a market analytics and a demographic standpoint, and try to cherry pick their best locations and show a correlation to that. And so it really helps to have that database. And so, and we're working with folks all over the state. Last night I was in Walnut Creek, and I'm up in Northern California a lot too, because I have a lot of clients up here, but I had dinner with the vice president for Panera Bread, who's an old friend of mine. We're doing a number of transactions with them, and it's just, when we bring a site to him, he really understands that we've thought about that, and that there is a pretty good correlation to that location. It makes some sense. Doesn't always mean that we get that site, but at least we get an opportunity for them to take a good hard look at it. And so there's a lot of those businesses that we're doing multiple transactions with, and so those relationships are really, really important in terms of leveraging. And as Amy talked about, our role really is to help paint that picture and tell that story about why we think that market and that location is a good one for a new location. So when you're looking at retail, you really need to understand a number of different things. You need to understand the current retail industry. You need to look at the community makeup, and you need to understand what your trade areas are, who your competition is. We focus not only on demographics and rooftops, but we try to drill down and provide those market analytics that retailers are really looking for. They want to make sure that their customer is going to be there and that they're going to be successful. So again, we're trying to tell that story and paint that picture and why we think it's a good fit. And we want to make sure that that the folks that we're talking to are good fits with your community, and that it makes some sense when you look at market analytics and demographics on where they want to be. And so we're working with a lot of these folks all over the state, and so we know what their footprint is. We know kind of where they want to be, what makes sense from a trade area standpoint, from market analytics, and try to make those good matches and what's right for a community. But I think it's really, really important to understand that you need to create market demand. You can't just want something. There needs to be some market demand. And so market demand is, the first thing they kind of look for is rooftops. And so they want to know that there's enough population density for their concept that makes sense to go there. And then we're looking for the demographics, and they're also looking for daytime population. So I think that in terms of Galt, you need to produce some more rooftops and create that market demand. But you have to have that good balance between jobs and housing. And you can't just let everybody go off to Sacramento or Lodi or Stockton or wherever else to work. During the daytime, you got to have those. And so Amy's talked about focusing on the industrial and having those jobs. I think it's really, really important to have that good balance between jobs to housing. Retailers demand rooftops for market demand, but they also want that daytime population too. One of the things that we do is looking just at the state of retail, and it really has changed a lot in the last few years. And so you're seeing, the growth of e-commerce and doing things online. Brick and mortar stores are never going to go away, but they're changing. And so you've got that competition. You need to understand that. Retailers and need to understand how they can compete with that. You see the Targets and the Walmarts and the Best Buys and a lot of those retailers, they're doing a lot more with e-commerce, but they're still relying on their stores and those brick and mortar stores. Target has redesigned a lot of their stores so that when you come in, you can get something online, and then they have an express line where you can go in and pick it up real quick and not have to go through all that inconvenience. And so it's just changing, and so you need to understand that and understand their footprints and what they're looking for and what the state of retail is right now. In terms of dining, you're seeing just sit-down restaurants, casual restaurants. They're struggling. A lot of the national folks are not doing a lot right now. It's the biggest segment in restaurants right now is fast casual, without a doubt. So you have the quick service fast food, and I think that's an opportunity for Galt is you don't really have any fast casuals, and so that is really, really important. And so they want to see what your existing restaurants do in terms of sales performance, and we obviously have all that data. They want to know if they're going to come in that others have done well and they perform well. So we know that how your existing fast food restaurants compare to the statewide average. I can push my computer button and figure out how you compare for that. It's telling that story and painting that picture about why we think it's a good fit for these folks. So it's understanding kind of what's available and what the marketplace is. And consumers are looking, the whole millennials, they look at not just price, but they're looking at experience too. And so you're looking at the shopping areas, having a lot of dining options, restaurant options, and just understanding how to have your shopping centers be built right, designed right, and that really is changing. You're looking at a lot of the malls. They're taking some of the old boxes, some of the old Sears and whatever else, and they're tearing those down and they're putting in more food options. They're putting in more entertainment options, and that's the future. And you just need to understand that and get in front of that. If you look at square footage, retail square footage in the United States, it's way more than any part of the country. We have a lot of retail space. And so what that does is those retailers are a little bit picky about where they go. They're being a lot more selective about where they go. So they're looking more at market analytics and figuring out where do we need to go, what's the best fit, and are our customers going to be there? And that's really important to understand that, because while they're still doing deals, they're a lot more selective about where they go. And again, it's just looking at retail and how it's changing. Technology that's available now. It's actually reduced the cost of a lot of consumer goods. Look at TVs. Look at how thin they've gotten, how light they've gotten. They're still big screens, but yet they cost way less than what they cost years ago. That technology has made it better, but it's also less expensive. And just looking at what the different footprints for shopping uses are, for retailers, for restaurants, a lot of what we do is figuring out what they want, what their footprint is, where they want to be. And again, the baby boomers are aging, and now it's about the millennials, and again, they're looking at a lot more about experience. You look at the shopping centers, a lot of the anchors that were popular even 4, 5, 6 years ago, some of them are not in business anymore, or their footprints have shrank a lot. When you look at a shopping area, the anchors don't pay the kind of rent. They don't pay big rents, and so, but yet they bring and drive the traffic, and so, but they're changing, and a lot more entertainment and other kinds of uses in there than what an older shopping center that maybe had a grocery store and a neighborhood shopping center type. They're just changing. You're looking again at different footprints, and most times they're smaller footprints. They're trying to be more efficient in what they have. And one of the big things right now, it's off price, it's discount. A lot of those anchors, whether it's Burlington or TJ Maxx, Ross Dress for Less, those are the retailers that are expanding a lot right now. A lot of the bigger ones are not. Target is not doing much expansion right now, and they're shrinking their footprints. This is kind of just summarizes just a couple things on how things have changed. So for a while, Target was doing super targets. They were doing 173,000 to 200,000 square foot super targets. They really didn't work in California. They're not doing those. They've shut down a couple of those. They were just too big. They couldn't compete. They weren't efficient. And so now Target is looking at stuff from 40 to 80,000 square feet, and kind of their prototype now is more like about 100,000 square feet, but they're looking at smaller ones. Not real aggressive in terms of their expansion plans, but their footprints certainly have shrunk a lot, and they're doing more business online. Walmart used to do a 235,000 square foot super center. They probably have knocked off 30 to 35,000 square feet off of those. They're becoming more efficient. They're doing more things online too. Kohl's went into probably 80,000 square foot buildings when they first came to California. Now they're more like 45 to 50,000 square feet. Again, they've become more efficient and taken their footprint and reduced it a lot to be more effective. Burlington, we've done a number of transactions with Burlington in the last few years. And Burlington, they dropped the coat factory and they tried to rebrand themselves as Burlington. And but they've gone from 80,000 square feet to 40,000 square feet. They can pay a little bit more in rent than what they were before. They've never been great rent payers, but their footprint's gone in half to what it was. When you look at downtowns too, downtowns have morphed into more than just a downtown during the daytime. A lot of them are going into more of an 18-hour downtown area, bringing in a lot more food and some entertainment and some nighttime activity, but also introducing residential components into downtowns or adjacent to downtowns. It's just trying to have more activity so it's not just roll everything up at 5 o'clock. So there's a lot of folks are trying to produce more of that mixed-use environment and looking at creating more of a vibrant environment. And another thing for downtowns is just having easy access to it, having sufficient parking, and just trying to create that activity that is more spread out. A lot of downtowns have gone to establishing a downtown business assistance group, having a property-based improvement district to try to make sure that the infrastructure you have looks kind of consistent and it's maintained properly, and it's a way to go ahead and to pay for those improvements and the maintenance with that, and trying to create that environment. Oops. And again, I think with downtowns, a lot of downtowns have gone to that mixed-use environment and really incorporating a lot more residential into their downtowns or nearby their downtowns, trying to create more rooftops to support that retail and restaurant environment. But looking at ways to make the spaces you have down there unique and something different where people want to come down there and spend some time and creating activity. So some of the things that we do in terms of retail is looking at site selection and defining the trade areas. And it's not, in the old days, you used to just do 1, 3, 5, 10-mile rings. Now it's more about drive times, and especially in these kinds of areas where you have hills and other things, it's drive times and looking at establishing those drive times. And our software has the computer program will go ahead and it will specify that drive time for you. But looking at the shopping center, what kind of shopping center it is, you know, a downtown area might draw from a greater drive time area. A neighborhood shopping center is going to have a shorter drive time period. It's looking at what that retail environment really is and what you're trying to draw. So we also do, we call it Insight Market Analytics. It's a program that we offer that it shows demographics. So that's rooftops, that's average household income level, that's ethnic makeup, you know, all that. But then we have another program where we do, it's a household segmentation profile. It's psychographics. More and more retailers are trying to look at just beyond just demographics, but looking at kind of the life stages for people and what they're spending their money on, what their life stages are. And so there's a lot of retailers that are looking at certain segments and wanting to understand that. We also do an employment profile to show so the demographic composition shows rooftops, and so the employment profile shows daytime population, and shows who's in your community during the daytime. And so showing that jobs to housing balance. The last thing that we offer up is a consumer demand and market supply assessment, and we're going to show that in a little bit. But that shows that what people are spending their money on in your trade area, what they're able to spend in your trade area, and then what's leaking out. And the leaking out is going to other communities. And so from a city perspective, that's obviously lost sales tax revenue. And I always look at that as kind of the glass half full. And when we're looking at who we think we should target, we can go say, these folks they're spending their money, but they're not able to fulfill it within that trade area. That's an opportunity. That's something that you should target and try to get that. And so you have opportunity with that leakage. And again, it's understanding what retailers require, what they want, where they want to be, what kind of trade areas they want to be in, and what kind of market analytics are they looking for. So we define the trade area, and we try to analyze the market and really understand the trade area, look at the drive times, and be able to paint that picture and tell that story. So this is what the demographic report looks like. So it's the first report in the Insight Market Analytics, and so it's really understanding the community, and it looks at your drive times, and then it looks at population, ethnic makeup, average household income level, households, you know, all that, renters, owners, and understanding that. And this is the consumer demand leakage I talked about. So you can see here, when you're looking at the first trade area in green, so that's a drive time. The column, the first column is what they're spending their money on in that trade area and those different product types. And there's 31 different product types. The second column shows what they're able to spend, what they're spending in your trade area. And then the third column is what's leaking out. And again, you can see in this category, there's a significant amount of leakage. That's lost revenue, obviously, but that's opportunity. And so that money is going to Lodi, that's going to Elk Grove, that's going to Sacramento or someplace else, because they're not able to spend their money within your trade area. And that's pretty consistent in the 3 different drive times that we looked at here. Another thing that we do is a void analysis, and so we've got a software that has about 1,100 national retailers and restaurants in our database. And to be in there, I think you've got to have 4 different locations in California. So we're taking that 1,100 and we're trying to get it down to about a page or so and try to fit it to what we think works with the market analytics for a community. But then more importantly, what works with the building types and the kinds of development that can occur here. And then because we're working with a lot of these folks is understanding where they want to be, what kind of trade areas they're looking for, what kind of opportunities they're looking for. Then we have contacts and all that.
Start later.
Wait an hour.
Sorry about that. And so again, we're looking at what they're looking for, what retailers are looking for in terms of what kind of shopping areas do they want to be in. Sometimes they want to see co-tenants that are part of the shopping center or the community, population requirements, all that. So we did a snapshot, a community profile of Galt, which we're going to include with marketing, showing that what the city population is, what the population is within a 15-minute drive time, but we're summarizing average household income level, education, labor force, households, daytime population, average age, what the projection is for the 5-year growth for both population and household. Again, we're trying to make it as easy for them to understand what the opportunities are here. So I think there's opportunities as we're getting into it to look at. I think there's obviously a lot of leakage that's going out to other communities, and so we think there's opportunities to go after a number of targets. We think there's off-price retail demand that can be realized here, but we do need to add some more rooftops too. I think it's important to create that market demand and enhance the market demand from what it is now. And so I think more rooftops, more residential is really important. And I think there's a significant opportunity with fast casual. And these are just some of them that are out there that we've worked with and done transactions with. It's the Blaze Pizzas, it's Chipotle. Chipotle is now there's a couple transactions that we're working on where they're now coming out with drive-throughs. A lot of the fast casuals have introduced drive-throughs. It offers more convenience for people, but it also allows them to take that drive-through and probably increase their sales by 15 to 20 to 25%. Sometimes that's the difference in whether they can do a location or not do a location. Panera Bread, almost all their new locations, unless they're in very dense urban areas, have drive-throughs, and they can produce another 25 to 30% of their business through drive-throughs. They're actually relocating a couple that I've done years ago and building bigger store footprints along with drive-throughs. Habit Burgers, a lot of the new Habit Burgers have drive-throughs too, and so I'm not a big drive-through person. My wife is the complete opposite. If there's not a drive-through, she's probably not stopping there. Amy talked about ICSC, International Council of Shopping Centers. We attend a lot of these, and typically when I'm at an event, Las Vegas is the big one. They have probably 40,000 people that attend that. When I was up there last May, I think it was the 26th year I've gone to this, I had 47 meetings in 2.5 days. It's rapid fire, and I was there for probably 15 or 16 different clients. There's one in Los Angeles that's Western region, and it's a little bit easier to maneuver. And then as Amy talked about, the one that's coming up in early March in Monterey is more focused on Northern and Central California. And it's proven to me to be a lot more effective and just easier to do. you know, when you're doing it and you're doing it right, and we've had a lot of success over the last 4.5 years. These are the logos of a lot of the businesses that we've helped bring to cities, and a lot of these we've done multiple transactions with some of these folks, but I think we're pretty good at telling that story, painting that picture. We have the relationships, and so we use folks like Amy to really understand what our opportunities are here locally, but then we're going to try to then make the connections and tell that story and paint that picture at these ICSC events. Those events are opportunities to kind of get your foot in the door, and then you just need to follow up. And so that's all you're looking for, is to try to get your foot in the door, and then try to really paint that picture and tell that story. We've been pretty successful. It's a small city in Southern California on the way to the Coachella Valley, Banning. It's about 25,000, and Beaumont, which is right next door, is about another 25,000. So it's about 50,000 people. We worked with Banning to do a closed Kmart, and we were able to put in. It's over on the left. We were able to put in a Hobby Lobby, a Marshalls, a Party City, a Big Five Sporting Goods, and then a pad with a Chipotle and a mattress firm. And it really has helped stabilize that shopping center, which is right off the freeway, off the 10 freeway. But it's that center has got an Albertsons as an anchor. It has a Rite Aid, but having that go dark really was starting to affect that shopping center. So we were able to work with a new developer that came in that we had a relationship with to really help stabilize that center and bring those new uses in. Another one is Diamond Bar. Our office used to actually be in Diamond Bar. We just relocated to Brea in Southern California, but Diamond Bar had another closed Kmart. And so we put in a Sprouts, Ross Dress for Less, a Petco, and we did 2 pads. And one pad has a coffee bean and tea and a Chipotle, and another pad which is getting ready to open right now, has a Habit Burger with a drive-through. We also did across the street from there a closed Vaughn's grocery store. We helped put Smart & Final into there. Smart & Final had passed on this site, and we were able to go back because of our relationships with them and show them that it made sense. And so we were able to go back and show that they were concerned in Diamond Bar that there was too much Asian population, and they thought that wouldn't be their customer. We were able to go show them that through the data and through the reports that we have, that it's second generation Asian, which is more free in terms of what they shop and what they eat and all that. And they opened, and I remember I went there and took pictures of female Asian customers out with just shopping carts full of stuff, and so they've done really, really well there. But we were able to tell that story and paint that picture and get them to consider this location, which has proven to be very successful there. You know, our team we're just bringing on a 4th person now to help work Northern California. So when she comes on board, we'll have 4 people with 100 years of experience. All of us have worked for cities, and so we know what it's like to work for a city. So even though we work in the private sector now, we understand that, the dynamics of working for a city too. We've done work for over 60 cities. We're probably working for 35 or 36 right now. But it's a lot easier to do it today than back when I started doing this. The software capability that we have, it really is amazing to see how you can do things now and really help tell that story and paint that picture and show these good matches. So with that, I'm also happy to answer any questions.
I have questions. So I was taking a lot of notes on your presentation just to kind of put my thoughts down. You know, it's interesting. Your firm will do, you know, all the research that you do and provide all this data, but it seems like I just wonder how much input you get from the community, though. And I say that because you know, your opening statement, you said that it's important to focus on what we have. But yet, the presentation pretty much just talks about all the things that you think that we need. Like, I mean, we get that a lot. We get, and the citizens will attest to this, we get our city government always saying, hey, we're going to be happy to get you a Target, or we're going to be happy to get you a this or that. And I'm not saying that those people don't want that, but what I'm saying is there's a big missing component to all these things. And Amy Mendez and I have had conversations, and I think she would agree with me on certain aspects of this, that it's important to get input from the community. Because I can go to someone and say, would you like to have a Target here? And they go, yeah, that's great. And I say, okay, but we're going to have to have 8,000 more people to do that. And they go, oh, you know what? Well, actually, I'm okay with just driving to Lodi still. So, I mean, I can tell you that it's interesting. There's a topic going around on Facebook this morning. This lady's thinking about moving to Galt. And she was asking people how they like Galt and what they like about Galt. There's about 200 comments on there right now. And I can tell you pretty much every single comment on there, like 100%, is we like Galt because it's a small town feel and charm. Yes, we're missing this, and yes, we can't shop for this or that, but we're okay with driving to other towns. So you're talking about the consensus of the community, the citizens. This is what the community wants. So I'm not sitting here saying that we don't need, I understand the sales tax leakage. I've looked at it myself. I know that Lodi has about $15,000 per capita spent, and Galt has about $5,000. So we're about a third of them. So Lodi, for example, and you mentioned Lodi and Elk Grove, that they have all those things. But you know, there's also a lot of things that Lodi and Elk Grove have that Galt doesn't either, and that's traffic and congestion and crime and all of that, and the things that people say that they don't like and they try to get away from when they move to Galt. So you also mentioned that it was a balance between houses and jobs, and that we need more rooftops, that you say we need more rooftops. Well, first of all, Galt's a bedroom community, and I think you understand that because you've done your data on us. So the problem is that a lot of our people work out of town. So I think, you know, it's important as we form our strategic plan that we need to be really focused on trying to bring more industry here, because I would bet that probably the population of Galt probably drops as high as 20% during the daytime hours from people that leave the city and then don't come back until night. So you're losing that. I don't think that we have probably about 2,500 houses green lighted to come in, you know, when we develop out everything that we've been improved right now. So that's about 8,000 people using the 3.2 people per household. 8,000 people is a 30% jump. That's 33,000 right there. So I think what we need to be thinking about is talking to our citizens and saying, do we want more rooftops and more houses to get some of these things that you've been mentioning? Because I think it's so very important to poll the community and to see what they want. And as we build a strategic plan, I encourage the council, I think it's important that we do that, because we don't want to turn Galt into something that we don't want to change Galt in a direction that the people don't want. And so, again, it's if someone you know is asked if they want something and they say, yeah, we want that, but if it comes at a certain expense, people are gonna have to decide. And I'm not telling you what they'll say, but I'm saying they will need to be put to that decision, and you citizens that are out there and they're watching on television will need to understand that with things come a cost. And so if that's what you want, then that's what the council will do for you, because we're ultimately up here acting on your behalf. So Amy and I have talked about this, Chris and I have talked about this, but I think it's important that as we go forward on our strategic plan, that we incorporate input from the community on a very high level, because ultimately they're the ones that live here and live here for certain reasons, and we need to make sure that those reasons are protected.
You know, I absolutely agree with you. I think getting that input from the community is important. But I also just want to emphasize, and some of the things I talked about is wanting it is one thing, but then showing the market demand is another. So it does take that balance between jobs to housing. And so it's not simply we want a target or we want this or that. It's you need to show that market demand, and that happens through new rooftops, but also having more jobs, having that good balance to housing. So I think
you mentioned 2 cities up there. You said that you were very successful with. You said we were able to get a Chipotle, and I think I forget the other businesses you were able to get for them, but one was the Bannon The other city was St. Paul.
Banning and Diamond Bar.
Okay, so you were actually saying that you were successful in getting certain businesses to come to there. So again, I'm very pro business. I'm a business owner myself. I want to see more things in this community for the people that we have here. I'm just not a big fan of the idea that we have to have more people to get those things. Both of those cities that you quoted, you said they had 25,000 people, but yet you were able to get those businesses there without the additional rooftops.
Well, the Banning has a city of 25,000, but adjacent in their trade area is another city, so it's 50,000.
Okay.
And then Diamond Bar is about 50 or 60,000 too. But when we've done work in, we're doing work up in Ridgecrest, which is a city of about 25,000. It's by itself, and so we're getting the first couple of fast casual restaurants there, and so but it's been a challenge, and so and they're starting to get some more retail. But again, it's market demand is really important to show that, and so if you don't have it, you lose it right away.
Well, we're getting, we got our Starbucks.
Yeah.
We're getting, Dutch Brothers, another Starbucks. We're getting some other, we're getting noticed.
Yeah.
Put it this way, and we're 25,000. We're getting noticed now. So, I mean, I'm not an expert in the field that you are, but that simply what I look at that as just the common person. I see that and say, well, they're noticing us now
Yeah.
with the population we have now. I think it's going to be. I think the obstacle here is for people like Amy, for example, is to go to these businesses that we do want to bring here and convince them that Galt is a good place to come with the population we have. They need to understand the geography of Galt, that we're an island and we feed from Thornton and we feed from Harold. And if you combine all that county into it, you probably have your 33,000. And so I think that's the obstacle that and challenge that people like Amy will have to talk to these people, to try to convince them that, hey, you can do good in Galt. Take a peek at us.
And we're not relying on some massive amount of growth either. I'm just telling you that to continue to evolve and get some of those other retailers that folks maybe have talked about, the Targets and whatever else, you need more population density. But again, we acknowledge what you have now. A lot of the stuff that is in planning and improved. Retailers won't come just because it's approved. They want to know that it's under construction, it's coming. So you're looking at what you have today, and then other things, other opportunities. That's added gravy. I think the big opportunity is to look at some of those fast casual restaurants, and a lot of them are coming back and looking at communities like Galt with a little smaller population. They're looking at that they probably wouldn't have looked at. Panera wouldn't have looked at a community like Galt and some of those with that kind of population base 2 or 3 years ago. But now they're coming up with little. Panera went from 2,800 square feet with no drive-throughs to 4,300 square feet with a drive-through. Now they're coming back. Los Banos, they're looking at, Panera's been looking at a location there for a while. So is Chipotle. And, but they're looking at a little smaller footprint. But they wouldn't have looked at that 2 or 3 years ago. And now they're kind of coming back and looking at it. So totally understand what you are right now. And that's what we're going to try to sell.
But like I said, it's important that, we have a business, for example, you talk about Panera Bread. We had a deli in Galt. She was here for 5 years. Okay. We would literally get people walk in there on a daily basis and say, I didn't even know you were here. How long you been here? So there's businesses here. You're talking about sales tax leakage, and it's not just leakage because of certain things we don't have. It's leakage because our population doesn't understand what's here. And I think that our city, and I think the council is failing them and is failing those businesses by creating, whatever it takes to get people to know that those businesses are down, and working with the existing businesses to try to make them more successful, instead of just saying, we're just going to abandon you. We're going to focus on getting the new guy here. So I think, and Amy understands that. We've had this conversation. So I think it's important that we can't forget the people that are here now that have been holding the torch for all these years, and we need to be focusing on quality, not quantity. That's kind of, and last statement here, and I'll wrap this up because I know people are tired of hearing me talk probably, but you know, yeah, I saw those logos on that board up there, and I'm thinking, if we had every one of those logos on that board come to Galt, we won't be Galt anymore. So it's important to remember that.
And I'm not suggesting that all of those will come here, but that just kind of shows you some of the things that we've done. But I totally agree with you that there needs to be a good mix between national and more entrepreneurial mom and pops. And as I said earlier, I think it's fantastic that Amy and Galt are focusing on what you have, trying to keep what you have, trying to expand what you have. It takes a good balance of that. You don't want to be all national or regional. It takes a good mix, and I think you do have a good, unique mix. And we don't do that. I mean, but certainly what you are doing, and I applaud you for that.
Thank you. Thanks for information. Anybody else have any?
I just have a couple of quick comments. First of all, thank you for the presentation. It really was informative about what other cities have done. But I do want to say a couple of things and reiterate a couple of things that Sean said. Vice Mayor Farmer said. For me, looking at this, I look at the leakage, I look at the housing that we already have approved, and I look at the retail opportunities. I firmly believe we need to continue to work with our local businesses, as Vice Mayor Farmer mentioned, and try to help reinvigorate them as this slow growth happens, keeping in mind that we do have the retail, we have the sales tax leakage to other communities. So I think it's, in looking at these things in isolation, you can't look at them in isolation. Housing is going to be developed based on the general plan, and history has shown us that it's very slow. So we have time to really be deliberate in looking at the sales tax that's leaving the community, as well as the retail establishments that can't have the opportunity to come in at the same time. And so I liked the presentation, the information in the presentation, because it really showed the different matrix that are used for that. And it was real informative to show how it's not just rooftop, it's daytime population. It's, you know, I would submit that we lose much more than 20% during the day. I think my whole neighborhood works in different communities. So, and so is the answer really bringing in, you know, businesses that will bring jobs at the levels that our residents are currently working? I don't know, but I think that as we move forward and we start helping our local businesses retain their prosperity here in the community, that we really need to continue to look at that as a whole rather than in isolation. So those are just my thoughts.
I agree absolutely. I mean, I think it's a combination of all those things. I think it's looking at your general plan, understanding the residential growth, but then more importantly, talking about the job creation. I think having that jobs to housing balance is really, really important. In the mix between national and regional retailers and restaurants with some of the more entrepreneurial, the mom and pops, having that good mix too. And I think all of that's important. There's not one way to do it. It's looking at what really makes sense for your community.
I mean, I think back to what this community was when I first came here. It was a population of 5,000 individuals. There wasn't a shopping center, there wasn't a fast food, there wasn't a traffic light. And, you know, what it shows is that, you know, communities are dynamic. They change, and they change with time. And part of that does include growth, whether it's moderate growth or fast growth, but there is always going to be growth. And if there isn't growth, communities stagnate. So you've got to look at, I think, a balance between what the values are that attract people to a community and retain those individuals as well as businesses, but you've also, at the same time, you can't have blinders on to what opportunities are out there that will benefit the community. And when I say benefit, I mean that is recouping those losses in terms of sales tax dollars that are going to other communities. I mean, there's a big disparity there. And I think that to the extent that the city should work towards, and I agree with what Amy has been doing and much of what this individual has said, we need to look at, plugging those holes and filling those gaps at the same time. And it's not to the disadvantage of existing businesses, but I think there's a synergy when you have more business. And I think that it'll build a stronger chamber of commerce, and I think that through those processes of growth that we'll see great benefits to the community. So, that's
Thank you. What I also found heartening was the fact that you were kind of revamping some of the old abandoned shopping centers. And so that helps with the blight and everything, and with smaller things, so that's quite encouraging. And
Yeah, and I think Amy touched upon it too, is some of the opportunities that she talked about for some new shopping areas. Some of those anchors that you really need to have for a shopping center, it's tough for them to make economic sense to do something right now. While times are getting better, construction costs are going crazy. They're having a hard time getting, even in the Sacramento area and all over a lot of metropolitan areas, getting subs. And so construction costs have probably gone up 25 to 30% in the last couple of years. And so it's hard to pencil those. They can't get the rents from those anchors to pay for that kind of that cost. And so a lot of the Ross Dress for Lesses, the Burlingtons, the TJ Maxx, a lot of what they go into is second generation spaces. It's those old Kmarts. It's the old grocery stores. We put in Burlington in a bunch of Toys R Us's that closed. They can get in there at a lot less expensive, and they can make their rent work. And so, but again, you're taking some of these blighted shopping centers and blighted anchors and revitalizing them and reusing them again. So again, it's a good mix and a good balance.
thank you.
I think too, in closing, I just want to mention that there's been discussion internally about trying to understand what the community is looking for as it relates to fast casual restaurants or soft good users, or who we're targeting and having an intent behind it. It's not just a shotgun approach. It really is us looking at what the community is interested in seeing here. And so I have experience in other cities doing surveys, retail surveys, and this might go beyond just a retail survey, but including the community as part of that, an online survey of, we did something similar with the Youth Commission, but doing this on a larger basis with the entire community, whether it be through water utility bills or just something online to sort of gauge what it is that, our residents are really looking for. I know they don't want another McDonald's, and I know they don't want another Taco Bell, and so how do we, get a pulse on what the residents are really looking for? And then you have something to measure against as you move forward with economic development to show kind of the successes that are there. So that is something that we've talked about internally, maybe focusing on to try and at least get some input from the community. So.
I like the idea of the survey. You and I spoke about that. But I also think we got to make sure that the survey is dynamic enough that people understand. We can't just say, would you like this here, or what would you like here, and that be the only question. You have to say, what would you like here, what would you like to see here, what types of businesses, and then you also need to say, would you be willing to have your community be this in order to have that? People have to understand, the big picture too. And because look, if the citizens come to me, if we did a survey, and the people come to me and say, Councilmember Farmer, we want Galt to be 50,000 people, and we want all these businesses, I'm going to make it that way because that's what they elected me to do. But I want to be sure that they understand what they're asking me to do.
Well, I think a lot of this
it's
plays
important.
into the strategic plan and sort of the focus of the entire council and how we move forward as it relates to economic development. So everybody's in agreement as we move forward, kind of big picture wise, with economic development, with retail, business recruitment, job creation, type of activities. So that's something I think that we definitely will kind of be speaking of when we go through the strategic planning process. So, thank you.
Thank you. moving on to public comment. We already had that read while we're waiting for Ms. Mendez. So I'd like to call Sarah McFadden to the podium to talk about a teen center. You can clap, it's okay.
Hello. I'd like to quickly introduce myself. I moved to Galt when I was 11 years old, and I've taught piano lessons to hundreds of children and teens and adults over the past 26 years in Galt, including Donna Settle's son. And for the last several years, I volunteered as the middle school choir pianist. I'm a mother of 4, and my oldest daughter is in college. My son's in the Air Force, and my 2 other children attend Galt High School. So I'm speaking to you today because Galt teens need a safe place to hang out after school where they can be themselves, feel loved, supported, and empowered to succeed. I created a Facebook survey, and 82% out of 145 participants believe that a teen center in Galt is needed. 13% said maybe, and only 4% said no. 90 people who took the survey are interested in volunteering their time on a regular basis. That's 62% who are not only supportive, but they're willing to actually sacrifice their time to help. An Ohio State University study has revealed when children belong to a youth club, they gain a stronger sense of who they are as a person. The study suggests that even small improvements in self-concept go a long way toward keeping children out of trouble. Participation in after-school programs have been associated with reduced drug use and reduced criminal behavior. Over 15 years ago, the Galt Boys and Girls Club was closed down for unfortunate reasons. Hopefully, we can focus on the current needs of teens using oversight and transparency to provide a safe, fun place for teens to be. Our vision of a teen center in Galt will not be possible without the support of City Council. We would like to open discussion with you as we develop ideas for a teen center to make sure that we begin in a way that has your support. Ideally, we would like to have a liaison that can meet with us on a regular basis and then report back to City Council, though we are open to whatever method you suggest. I met with the executive director of an impressive teen center which currently operates in Lodi. So I would like to pass out their brochure and registration membership form, if that's okay. You can take one and pass it on. The director of their program is very excited about the possibility of partnering with Galt to open a teen center here. She's confident that if we have a building that either the city provides or we receive donations for, we could build a similarly successful program. What we need most is a building. I have looked at many possibilities, but realized that we first need to receive endorsement from City Council before we continue this endeavor. I hope our teens, the future of our community, will also receive the type of support other groups receive from our city. This is a social investment that can have lasting effects. We have donors and volunteers in place and will seek support from local businesses. I personally do not have all the necessary skills to make this project a reality, but I can help organize a board and mobilize volunteers who have the skill sets that are required. First and foremost, though, we need a building and the support of City Council. As my high school son constantly worries about his friends and their challenges, he said to me, "Mom, we really need to make a teen center happen, and this will help motivate me more than anything." I will leave you with just a few comments from our community. One of the participants of the survey said, "When I was a kid, we had one. I loved it. Had a mentor, assisted with homework, a piano that we taught each other to play, a soda machine, and volunteers bought food now and then so whoever was hungry could eat." Many people stated, "Very much needed." And another person said, "Fight for it." And lastly, one said, "Don't give up." And I don't intend to. Please consider the need for a teen center in Galt and advise how we should move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Jo Schroeder.
Hello. I was going to say somebody's getting a call. My name is Jo Schroeder, and I'm a member of this community. I graduated Galt High in 1991, went to college, got my degree in criminal justice, went off, moved away, lived elsewhere, and then moved back because I wanted to raise my son in this community. I was raised here, and I know what a great community is for that. I originally moved here, well, my family moved here in 1982 when I was 9, so pretty intimately familiar with this community. My family's been very involved with this community in various ways since we got here. My mom was a member of the Arcoe School Board out in Herald for 14 years. My dad was involved with the Galt Area Historical Society. He actually mowed the lawn out at the Liberty Cemetery for many years till his death. And then my brother and his family are very involved in Liberty Ranch High School. They both teach there and coach in various capacities. My son is currently a junior at Liberty Ranch High School. Through our involvement in 4-H, FFA, I'm involved in the Ag Boosters and various community organizations like Gallup, Galt Lions, Night to Shine through the Horizon Church, and various sports organizations. We have come into contact with many teens in this community, and we can definitely see a need for a teen center, kind of a hub for kids who aren't parts of the organizations I just mentioned, you know, like FFA and sports, things like that. Although the teen center would be good for those kids as well. I wanted to speak to my level of commitment to this project because it's something that's been on my mind ever since I relocated back to Galt, that I know that there was I don't know what happened with the Girls and Boys Club and all that, but there's definitely a void there now. And I don't just say that because I think so. I hear kids say it. For me, that's enough to motivate me to step it up and do something about this thought, this feeling I've had for a long time. One thing you have now that's got me motivated is Sarah and John McFadden. They are extremely dynamic individuals. They're kind, they're loving, they're fantastic examples of what every kid should attain to be in life. And them being involved in this makes me want to be part of it. They will be exactly what our kids need, even if they're just the individuals that are in that center when the doors are unlocked to vent to or bounce their ideas off of or whatever. But they're not just going to be that. They're going to be members of the board of this teen center. They're going to be the ones that find the fundraising, and I as well want to be a part of that and have committed to them to not just be somebody who unlocks the door and shows up, but somebody who's involved in all levels. You know, we have a vision of where this can go, of course, right? I mean, we think of having local law enforcement come and talk about, you know, what they do to connect with the kids that are kind of, you know, they're not your kids that are in your leadership classes. These are the kids that need to have contact with law enforcement. That's not just when they got taken away from their parents, things like that, you know. We'd love to link up with Habitat for Humanity, Red Cross, and provide volunteer opportunities. You know, Gallup has a ton of volunteer opportunities, just to give kids a sense of purpose and connection to the community so they get invested in being productive citizens of our community, not on the outskirts of it, right? We'd love to, you know, have a whole curriculum for life skills, teaching life skills that unfortunately aren't always taught in the home, but these kids still need to have somewhere. And in a time of social media, think of what we could do in terms of connecting to these kids and reminding them what it's like to have a conversation or to stand up and speak in public, things that get lost because they're so connected to their phones. We have huge dreams, but we know we need to start small, and but we must have the support of the City Council, and we'd love if you would add this topic to your agenda to get the discussion started.
Ms. Schroeder, you'll have to wrap it up.
Okay. That was my last sentence, so. I feel like the time's right there, so. Okay. But we would just love to continue this discussion, so please add it to your agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Aurelie Benavides?
Good evening. I would like to introduce myself. I'm Aurelie Benavides, and I go to Galt High. I'm actually ASB president, so I am one of the students that is involved heavily with leadership. First and foremost, I would like to read a letter written by our vice principal, Mr. Posey, to be read here at this meeting. To whom it may concern, I have a deep history in Galt, and I am lucky to be an assistant principal at Galt High School. I interact with teenagers every day, now more than ever. I believe that teenagers need activities, hobbies, positive role models, and other positive influences. Sports work for some, and academics work for others. Many youth in general need an additional motivation and opportunities to reach their full potential. I have become familiar with the Teen Center in Elk Grove in recent years through a friend of mine on the board of its organization. They serve dozens of kids per day with a place to do homework, socialize, and provide positive adult influences and mentors. In total, they serve hundreds of youth in Elk Grove in a positive way. I believe that the youth in Galt would be served well with all of the opportunities that a teen center could provide. Please feel free to contact me with my personal cell phone. So to start off, I only have 3 minutes left, but I've only been familiar with Galt for the last 3 years. I'm from Acampo, and so this is the first time I've ever really had to socialize with other kids that are not from a rural area. And I feel that it is vital to have a place where students can feel comfortable and free to express themselves in a normal, natural way that they can't necessarily do at Galt High or even just at Liberty. There's not a lot of opportunity for that to happen and for growth to basically be instilled in us and have an idea of what it is to have a family or to have a group of people that supports you that are not just teachers or people that you're not familiar with, like authority or like, parents. A lot of us, including myself, don't have figures in our lives to support us and to have a place to go to and call it home or call it just a place where you feel safe. Because a lot of us don't have places that we can call home or that we can feel safe in. And what I don't understand, that we have council meetings to talk about the economy in Galt and have places to be brought here, businesses brought here to support our economy and to make more money for Galt, but we don't have things to support our youth. We don't have things to encourage our youth to be better than what they are. We have a huge problem with drugs and crime that are normally just in young kids that aren't really doing anything bad, but it is involving drugs. It is involving smoking weed behind buildings or doing bad things that aren't right, and there isn't a place for them to go other than to do those things. And I don't think that that's right. So, in conclusion, I think that it would be very important, and as a student, as a person that doesn't always have a place to go, I think it would be vital for the council to put that on an agenda. And I think there's plenty of kids in Galt that would benefit from this and that would spend countless hours in a place for themselves to apply themselves and to have support, whether it be in academics or just in life lessons in general. Because myself, I feel like I can't concentrate at home. And if I had a place to go to do my homework or to feel that I could succeed in something, that would be fantastic. And I know that there's parents in Galt that would support something like that, but they don't know where to begin. They don't know where to go. And that is why I am so grateful to have a family like the McFaddens that they are willing to take the first step. And they're willing to step forward and say, enough's enough. There's enough kids in Galt that are addicted to drugs or don't have a place that they can feel supported in their mental state because there isn't enough awareness about that. I think addiction is a big problem in teenagers in Galt, and I don't think that there has been enough attention paid to that by adults or by law enforcement or by teachers. I think that is something that is swept under the rug, and I'm quite frankly tired of that. And I think that it's very important to have a place like this. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Arelli. Can I touch on it? We did have, a couple of years ago, we had Vice Mayor Mike Singleton, who had a whole setup at Fair Site with resources and tutors for an after-school program, but I think the council would get on board if we want to work together again to see. Vice Mayor Farmer wants to work with that, and anybody else, and we'll start the process and see, before we get it on the agenda, get some things going. Is that okay? Okay. And now? We have Ms. Bonnie Rodriguez talking about the 150-year sesquicentennial. Oh, did I say it correctly? No. Apparently, I didn't say it correctly, Ms. Vice Mayor Farmer.
Thank you for saying it, because I'm not going to say it. But first, I have to say how unfair it is I have to follow such a dynamic.
She is the
young
ASB
woman.
president. You all caught that.
So I just wanted to come and give council an update on our 150-year anniversary plans. The committee met a couple weeks ago and discussed some options and some plans, and I think we're looking toward September for a big event. I do have some updates, so even for our committee, that just happened yesterday. But first, I'd like to pass out something to each of the council members, and I had requested a set for each staff member, so I'm sorry I don't have enough. You'll have to fight over them, but really quick. Thank you.
You want to get me? Here's her cell number, if you want to write that down.
So in your hand is our examples of some banners that we are proposing. We're working right now with city staff. We're looking forward to continuing that relationship where we would like to propose a banner program throughout the entire city. These banners are celebrating the 150th year. The proposal is to bring it before council for the city to purchase banners, and also for businesses, organizations, individuals, families, anyone to sponsor a banner, similar to the military banner program. But there's something to unite our entire city, so both sides of the freeway, both east and west. We're excited to be one of the main, a very visual program that will unite both sides of our city so that everyone can see that we are a united town. Some little updates. I have been working with Union Pacific and have had a couple of phone conversations with Union Pacific and Operation Lifesaver, which works with the railroads and safety. September happens to be Railroad Safety Awareness Month, so it fits right into their plans. Union Pacific gave me some great news yesterday in discussing some things with them. A steam engine, which you very rarely see, obviously, because now our technology is so great, but a steam engine will be making its way across the country, because this is a year of anniversaries. It's also the Transcontinental Railroad's 150th anniversary as well. So they are celebrating this year and bringing that steam engine across the U.S., and it should be hitting in our area in Galt in April.
Wow.
So pretty exciting for them to come through. We don't have an exact date or time. I think they're make sure that it's working well. And as it gets closer, we will be announcing that, and our committee hopefully will maybe plan like a picnic on the grounds or something out there. So as that steam engine comes floating through Galt, that we can wave some flags at them and welcome them through our towns. So that's one big exciting thing. We also learned some other Some other exciting news from Union Pacific, that they may be helping with some surprises for our celebration in September. We don't want to spoil the surprise, but we are getting some buy-in from some of our other entities around us, and we're pretty excited to bring them in, and really excited to bring the city together. So these banner examples that we've given you, they're intended to be bookmarks. They're really big bookmarks, so maybe those big books, as you're getting older, need the big print can fit in there. And we're hoping to have more to be able to distribute throughout the community as well. So those are, thank you for holding them up. Those are some of the options. There should be 5, and those will be some of the ones that we're discussing of possibly having up all over town to kind of.
Bonnie, can you hold them up so people
I gave mine
watch?
all away.
I just did, Sean.
Well, you're not on TV though.
Oh,
Okay. So a little bit closer. So these will be for sale for the banners, kind of like the military program. Although ours, someone texted me today and said that the military banners, you'll have to correct me, that they're only one-sided. Is that correct?
Yeah.
We have a new program where they're
They're
double-sided.
doubles. Okay, so these will be double-sided as well, so you'll have be able to see. And we're also hoping that shopping malls, our shopping centers, and the schools hopefully will have a little bit of buy-in too, and put them in their parking lots as well. So we just kind of plaster our city and show our pride of our age. And just because it is in 15 seconds, another celebration, another anniversary this year is the Senior Club of Galt. It's their 50th anniversary, so this is a big year this year for Galt. Okay. Any questions for anybody?
Bonnie, I just want to give you some credit. I believe you are the one that discovered that this was our 150th anniversary.
No, I would
who
love to take
discovered it?
credit, but actually, I was sitting at a Galt Historical Society meeting, and I think Janice Barsetti said, I think so, weren't you there? I swear you guys were there. Yeah, I think she said it was the 150th, and then it just kind of blossomed there for several of us. So I wish I could take credit, but I really.
And you started researching. Well, we're glad we didn't let it slip by. This is kind of an exciting year to be on council. So,
Yeah, so no pressure, but it'd be great to have, each council member with their name under sponsoring a banner. Just
I was thinking a banner on each side of this sign, too. Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. All right. Is this for now? All right. I would like to call Jean Davenport to the podium.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Gene Davenport. I live in the city of Galt. I just want to want to talk on a couple of issues. One, that this young lady that just talked on the youth of this community has been so underserved for so long. It's a glowing example of what this city needs. And her referencing the addiction problem and the youth in this town is sincere, is very sincere. I come from that background. I worked in that background through my occupation, and I see it firsthand, and it's sad to see. But the fact is, we can turn that. Also, I want to address a couple of things that you guys have already voted on. It is what it is, but I really find it disingenuous when we have a department head, administrative head, retire, and then come back on a consulting fee for 6 months at our expense. But the question I ask there is, one is, as a head of a department, doesn't he have anybody else in that department that can bring the new person up to date? Okay, I mean, if you're running a department, you should have somebody that can bring this new person up to date. Or if that person is retiring, God bless him, have a great retirement. But if it was only 6 months and he cared about the city that much, couldn't he have extended his retirement 6 months? I mean, as a benefit to the city. I understand we all have different reasons for what we do, but the city has to take into account you have to answer to us, the taxpayer. And we talk about how we're going to do this and that, but yet when you throw money out like that, we're going to have a salary of a new head, then we're going to have a consulting fee. And I know he's taking CalPERS or whatever his retirement, I know is directly isn't in the city, but it still reflects on us. And I think you guys really need to adhere to that 180-day grace period. I mean, there's no reason for us not to adhere to that. Person should not be able to retire with a full pop and then come back and work as a consultant at a wonderful salary for 6 months when we have another person in that position again, just to bring them up to snuff. So with that, I just think you need to just adhere to the 180-day period. Don't deviate from it. Don't say that I want to see results. Just don't do it. All right, that being said, on the other issue that I have is on the rate increase for the waste people. If I read in the paper correctly, it said that one business was going to get hit with a $2,000 a month increase. And the Vaccarezes they were kind enough to come up and say they'll address that and they'll show them how to do things, this, that, and the other. If we're going to be hit with the businesses in this town are not large. We have a lot of small businesses, and this $200 a month increase is big because, that margin isn't large on a lot of businesses, and it affects them adversely. And you need to take that in consideration. And I looked at the city charter, past city councils. Nowhere does it say that Galt has to be first in everything. We were first with the water meters. Now we're first with the state mandated waste management. I mean, give us a break a little bit. I mean, just talk to us a little bit more. And I understand the complaint letter has to come in. You have to get 50% of the population. That's never going to happen. That was put into place for that purpose alone, just so you know it's not going to happen. We don't have to tell you what is good for us. You need to know what's good for us and take that into account. And by raising the increase, like being first out of the gate on it, is not beneficial to every single taxpayer and every business in this city. I think you need to just stop, take a breath, and sit back a little bit. But I just think, at the end of the day, things happen. We're going to go forward from this. But I just think you need to take into consideration and think about us in the future. Because not everything is good. Like the youth center, we don't have one. We should have one. To be honest with you, the consultant was talking about all the things that can come to town. Well, before I came here, I know, because I used to come to Galt when I was in high school. I used to drive through, dated a couple girls, but there was a theater, there was a bowling alley, there was a car lot. And where did we go from there? Now we have these corporations coming in dictating what we can and can't have. I'm not in favor of that. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, Gene. All right, so any other public comment?
No.
Reports by city council members on regional boards, commissions, and committees. Vice Mayor Farmer, we'll start.
Just went to the League of Cities with city manager and city clerk and Councilmember Lozano and Sandu and yourself. Did I miss anybody? We were all there. It was good. Just to keep it short, the best part about it, I think, was not only the sessions that they did that helped educate on some things that were very helpful, but the networking that we were able to talk with a lot of other mayors and council members that were there, and especially ones of nearby cities, and kind of bounce ideas off them, talk to them about how they're dealing with certain issues that we have, talk to some cities that were far off that are similar to Galt, and kind of talked about tons of different subjects, and it was very, very very enlightening on a lot of different things. So it's nice to have, and I made some contacts, got a lot of phone numbers of people, and I've kind of touched base with some of them since then and kind of used them as a sounding board for some ideas. And I think it's good. It's important that we talk with our fellow council members, other cities, to see what's working for them, what's not. Let them be the guinea pigs for some stuff.
That was great.
So anyways, it was good. I had a good time.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Campion?
Yeah, I did attend the South Sacramento County Habitat Conservation Plan. That was on the 28th. Unfortunately, we didn't have a quorum, and so we had to reschedule until this month at the end of the month. So we'll take up all the agenda items that were scheduled for the 28th.
Councilmember Lozano?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. Just the League of California City conference was really good. Good refresher on a lot of things, but good information, new information on many other things, such as social media and things related to social media as as an elected official. So I thought that was pretty good. It was pretty progressive in terms of being relevant to today's times. I also attended the SACOG meeting on the 17th, and the agenda for that was pretty packed. But I'll just touch on one thing that I thought was pretty important. We talked about achieving the region's 19% greenhouse gas reduction target, and how SACOG is going to look at that regionally and try to address some of those concerns. It's going to be tough to get to 19%, but we're really going to be looking at housing as it relates to greenhouse gases, transportation, of course, and all those things kind of wrapped up into one. And so the one thing that I was really happy with was that it was my first SACOG meeting, but I felt like I had been there forever because the city staff and former Vice Mayor Mark Cruz did a really good job of keeping up with making sure SACOG had the information that from our city, keeping engaged, and I know some staff members are on committees for that as well. So we're really involved there, and I think it's important to address some of our needs here in the city from a regional perspective, and so I really like that synergy that happens. The other thing is I'm on the policy committee, and we'll be meeting in a couple of weeks for our first meeting for that committee of SACOG. And then lastly, the Transportation Authority, our first meeting of the year, is going to be on February 14th, and so I'll report back on that later.
Thank you. I attended the California League of Cities also for a refresher, and it was great, like Councilmember Farmer or Vice Mayor Farmer said, just to touch base with a lot of other council members and ask them, how do you guys do this? Or, what do you do here? And just a lot of information. I attended my first Sacramento Metro Air Quality. I'm on the board with Don Natoli and all the other supervisors and a lot of local mayors. And it was quite informative, and motor vehicles are still the #1 cause of pollution in our air. So when we see things that try to encourage people to ride their bikes and commute and things like that, that I know our community development has their eye on a few things like that. Just think about that. I attended the Youth Commission meeting last night, and they're progressing. Their year goes quite quickly because they only meet about 9 times during the school year. So they helped out at the Bird Festival, and they help out at a lot of things that people ask. And then we had a safety committee meeting. So I thought it went quite well. We had some concerned citizens come out to that, so that was great. And the school superintendent was there and put him on the spot a little bit. So we had a really good meeting for that. Okay. And information consent calendar. Do you want to read the items? I'll read them if you want. All right. So on the consent calendar, we have the minutes of the special meeting and regular meeting of January 15th, 2009. Receive and file warrants for period ending January 16th, 2019. Approval of final balancing contract change order for the 4th Street parking lot and open space improvements project, capital improvement program number 59B, for additional amount of $533.15. Approval of a development impact fee credit agreement with Elliott Homes for the River Oaks 3C subdivision. Can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Campion, seconded by Councilmember Lozano. Do we have any, vote please.
Vice Mayor Farmer.
Aye.
Councilmember Sandu, Councilmember Campion.
Aye.
Councilmember Lozano.
Aye.
Mayor Lamson.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Do we have any scheduled matters?
No.
No scheduled matters. Regular calendar, we have the treasurer report by Mr. Farrell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council members. Tonight, I just wanted to offer a little bit in review. The city's treasurer, which I currently hold that position, the responsibility of that treasurer is to invest the city's money. And there's three main objectives in the way that I do that. Those objectives are safety, liquidity, and yield. So the very first thing is when I look for an investment, I make sure that the city is not going to lose a single dime when we invest. Second thing is we want to make sure that the investments are, a certain portion of those investments are going to be liquid, so the city can meet their financial obligations at least for the next 6 months. And once those two objectives are satisfied, then I look for the highest yield and get that. So whenever you hear this, what is called the SLIDE principle, safety, liquidity, yield, that's what I'm referring to. Now, in today's financial market, I just want to say it's a very unusual situation that's actually happening. We have what is called an inverted yield curve. And what that means is that short-term money actually earn a higher rate of interest than, say, long-term money. And I'll give you an example. Right now, a one-year treasury note will pay 2.55%. A 5-year treasury note will pay 2.51%. So just to let you know, I can get a higher yield when I go just one year instead of 5 years. Usually when that happens in the economy, that means a recession is coming soon. Now, how severe that recession will be, who knows? But that's what an inverted yield curve actually means. So with that, when you have an inverted yield curve, the best thing to do is use what is called a dumbbell strategy, okay? So what that means is you have long-term investments, which the city does. We have a lot of 5-year callable agencies in our portfolio. And then also you have very short-term money, so very liquid money. And we have a good amount in LAIF as well. So that way, usually there's nothing in between. So you basically have a dumbbell. And that's exactly how the city is financially positioned right now. So we have 82% of our idle cash sitting in either long-term or very short-term. So that's exactly as I said. When there is an inverted yield curve, that's where you want to be positioned. Having said all that, it's also the end of December is also the end of the second fiscal quarter, and I'll give a earnings to date in the half of the fiscal year is about $425,000. When looking over the past 12 years, we've never had $425,000 in interest earned at the halfway point. So this is good. And the reason is that, as you know, the Federal Reserve has been raising their interest rates. Good for investors, but not so good for homeowners, because then they have to pay more for housing. So, having said that, I'll answer any questions that the council may have regarding the investments for the city ending December 2018.
When's a recession going to hit?
Yeah.
When's a recession going to hit?
Who knows? It could be here already, we just don't know. We have to look for all the right signs. An inverted yield curve is one of those signs.
Appreciate the information, Sean.
Sure. So I ask for your approval of the treasurer's report.
Do we have to have a motion? Okay.
Move.
Second?
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Campion, a second by Councilmember Lozano. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Farmer.
Aye.
Councilmember Campion.
Aye.
Councilmember Lozano.
Aye.
Mayor Lamson.
Aye, and that's 4-0, and my previous one was 4-0, not 5-0. Correction. All right. Next, we have the Finance Department, the City of Galt Comprehensive Annual Financial Report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2018. Jean, did you want to?
Ms. Tyson will present this report.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Before you tonight is the CAFR report. This is the annual report for the city. It's the audited annual report. It basically has 3 sections to this report. an introduction, financial and statistical section. I would draw your attention really to 3 areas that are, it's a long report, but there are 3 areas that are probably most helpful. The first is the transmittal letter. That is, I think, page I. And that basically talks about the city of Galt, the economic conditions, economic tendencies right now, and some other attributes of the city. It does talk about what the audit is about and those kinds of things. The other thing is the independent auditor's report, which is on page 1. This is the auditor's results of their efforts in the audit of this city. This report is an unmodified report. The third thing is the management discussion letter, the MD&A. It's on page 5, and it provides more of an analysis, kind of a last year to this year, high level, gives you some information, and also directs you to what page and what section of the report gives you more information on certain topics you might be interested in. So that's the attachment 1 of your staff report, and hopefully you've all seen that. We also have it electronically available. The second attachment is the internal controls letter. This is a letter from LSL, our independent auditors. They come in and they look at the internal controls of the city. Those internal controls are really the underpinning of the financial assurances that make all of our systems credible. We do have 4 findings in this area, along with the planned improvements. Those improvements are around procedures, financial procedures, having to do with the closing and reconciliations. We'll be working on those in the next year. The third item in your attachments is the compliance letter from LSL. This is a requirement having to do with Prop 111. It's a state mandate having to do with appropriations limit, and the auditors make a comment about whether they agree with the calculation, which they do. The fourth item in your attachment is a letter from LSL, your auditors, specifically to the mayor and council members, and that really talks about their professional standards used in the audit, talks about the scope of the audit, the timing of the audit, basically how the audit was conducted. And then the last item, which I think you have at the dais, is a letter from LSL to the mayor and council, and it really is around the additional work this auditing firm did to verify compliance to AB 3773, which, as you know, has to do with Parks and Rec, the Galt market, and how all of that's spent. These are referred to on page 2 of the staff report and page 14 of the CAFR. So without anything further, the auditors are hired by you. So the auditors are present here tonight to present the audit and to answer any of your questions. We have Ken Macias, who is the partner of LSL, and Brandon Young, who is the senior manager. There you go. And Brandon's going to speak to you a little bit more about that audit.
Good evening, Council. As Claire said, my name is Brandon Young. I'm a senior manager with LSL CPAs. This is our first year auditing the city. Our audit began back in, I want to say May. We came out in May and we did some internal control work. During that time, what we do is we do interviews with city employees in different departments to obtain an understanding of how they process certain transactions. What we're looking for during that time is to make sure that the processes they have and the controls they have in place would catch any error or fraud that would occur. And we use that as a risk assessment to help plan our year-end audit, which we did in September. This year, a little bit unorthodox in between interim and year-end. The city did have some turnover, so we had some challenges kind of getting started. We came out in October, and the current county manager at the time went on medical leave, so we had to come back in November. That's why the CAFR is coming to you in January as opposed to being done in December. We were working with the city, and the goal is to get it back on track next year, back in December, but with turnover, sometimes things happen and family events. So We had some challenges, but it was a team effort, big time to get the CAFR done and on time. So I'm looking forward to future years and laying a good foundation. With the audit, as Claire mentioned, it comes with 3 letters. The first letter is the opinion letter in your CAFR. As she mentioned, that's an unmodified opinion. That's the best opinion you can receive. What that means is that there's nothing in there. All the numbers in the CAFR we were able to verify and support. We tested the numbers, looking at checks, cash receipts, journal entries, pay registers, things like that, and everything was supported the way we would expect. In that opinion letter this year, there is one paragraph you don't typically see. It's called the emphasis of matter paragraph. What that's drawing your attention to is there was a new accounting pronouncement this year for GASB 75, which is for your other post-employment benefit liability. What that's telling you is that this is the first year of that accounting standard, and now the entire unfunded OPEB liability is now going on your CAFR, as to where previously it was just disclosed in the footnotes and it wasn't recorded. If you're familiar with the pensions, basically this standard mirrors the pension GASB 68 exactly. So now they both are doing the same thing and they're putting the full liability on your books. So that's what that paragraph is letting you know. The second letter is the audit communication letter that she mentioned. What that letter really is the summary. If there were any disagreements with management that we had, or any items that we weren't able to audit, or something came up, we would put it in that letter. There's nothing in there of that this year that we're happy to report. The one thing in there that is kind of a key area, it talks about significant estimates, kind of like I just mentioned. The pension liability and the OPEB liability, those are actuarially calculated numbers. Those are based on assumptions, discount rates, and with CalPERS, I'm sure, as you know, the discount rate is trending downwards. So the pension liability is going up each year, and it's nothing the city did wrong. It's just every city basically is having the same issue. They projected a discount rate of 7.5% a few years ago, and they're working it down, I think, to 6%. So it's really drastically making that number swing, back and forth without anything that the city can do to really control it. So that letter is telling you that those are estimates. We do review the reports that are prepared by CalPERS or your outside actuary for OPEB to make sure that they include all the assumptions they need to include, but they do change, each year based on different assumptions that are used. The last letter is the report on internal controls. As Claire mentioned, there was 4 findings this year that we have in that letter. There's 2 categories of findings. There's a material weakness and a significant deficiency. A material weakness is the higher of the 2 findings, and usually how we dictate which category the finding goes into, it's based on either dollar amount threshold or the type of issue we came across, as to where if it was a process that needed a lot of fixing that would lead to errors, then it would be a material weakness. If it was something that just needs a little bit of cleanup or is a smaller item, it'd be a deficiency. So the 2 material weaknesses, the first item has to do with reconciliation of debt. In simple summary, there's the successor agency used to be recorded as a different type of fund. It used to be the redevelopment agency, which is a governmental fund. Now it's a full accrual fund, so you need to accrue interest on your bonds. And they weren't accruing any interest, so that's been corrected. And just the way the debt is recorded in the fund needs to be handled differently, so they're now aware of that, and that's a pretty easy fix moving forward. Just the dollar amount was a little bit larger, so it's considered a material weakness. The second item that was a material weakness had to do with revenue being recorded on your SRF loans. I'm sure you guys are aware of the loans, and in your CAFR, it's the statewide resources loans. Those don't have any revenue associated with them. Those are just, when you get the money reimbursed from the state, you have to pay it back, so it's just a liability. It's not revenue to the city. When we got the initial trial balance, it was recorded as revenue, as just a mistake. So we have corrected that, and now going forward, that shouldn't be an issue as well. It's just dollar amount, it was large, so it's considered a material weakness. The 2 deficiencies we had, the first was bank reconciliations. When we came out in April, the city was a little bit behind with their bank rec process. We typically, kind of want them done within 30 to 60 days, and they were a few months behind on their bank recs. And with that, there was, excuse me, a large number of kind of small reconciling items that were unreconciled differences. Some of it was due to staff turnover and just short staffing, but when we came out for year end, they were able to get it corrected. And we've talked to Claire and finance, and going forward, they're planning on getting on track to having the bank recs done timely. Because the issue with that is if you wait a long time and something's wrong with your cash balances, it's hard to catch it when you're, 6 months behind in your bank rec. So they're aware of the issue and working to rectify it. And the last item in there has to do with cutoff. There were some invoices that came in September and October that were paid in the next fiscal year, but that related to the previous year. The city does have a process to review invoices and accrue those items, and there were just some that were missed, either because when they came in or just the description on the invoice was maybe hard to understand. So that was the last item. Each of the items we've talked about at length. They've put their corrective action in the letter as to what their plan is to rectify it, so you don't see them next year. And we follow up on those items each audit to make sure that they have corrected it. As she mentioned, the last item we did do, we are engaged to audit compliance for AB 3773. The Parks and Rec Fund is a major fund in your CAFR. So in your CAFR, what that means is that all the numbers that fund is showing, they've been audited to make sure that the numbers are accurate. Typically, a CAFR audit doesn't have much to do with compliance of each one of the funds. So we were engaged to do a separate letter looking at the conditions of AB 3773. And what that entailed mainly was the expenses in that fund consist of really three different things. There is payroll costs, there's transfers to the general fund, essentially paying the city back for city attorney time, city clerk time, things like that based on the cost allocation plan. And then there's actual disbursements that are coming from that fund. So what we did is we analyzed the payroll costs throughout the year. The payroll costs come out to about 1.8, 1.9 million in that fund. The transfer out to the general fund represents about 900,000. We analyzed that and reviewed the cost allocation plan the city is using to come up with that number. And then we sampled the disbursement register and looked at about 50 different invoices that were cut from that fund during the year. The largest invoice that the fund had was about 32,000, and it had to do with the Littleton Center, some repair work. And a lot of them are very small. Some of them are as small as $50 for things like uniforms and just general maintenance work. From what we looked at, the city is in compliance with the conditions of AB 3773. There's nothing that we noticed that looked out of compliance that was being spent on items other than Parks and Rec. The one recommendation we would have for transparency purposes, I think it would be beneficial for everybody to break out the Parks and Rec activity with the flea market. I think it would be beneficial to see the flea market as its own fund and the other parks activities as a different fund. I think it would be easier for the citizens and for council just to see what's going on specifically with the flea market as well as just the other parks activity. It's not a finding or anything of non-compliance. I just think as an outsider, I know it was kind of difficult for me at first to differentiate, which was other parks and which was the flea market. So that would be our only recommendation with that. With that, we are happy to answer any questions that you have, and thank you for having us.
I have questions.
Yep.
You actually answered a couple of them already, which is good. It had to do with the 4 items that you found the deficiencies in. But can you clarify a little bit? The one deficiency you said was regarding SRF loans. So it was itemized as revenue. Is that, when you say it was itemized as revenue, was that the money that comes in from the public for the SRF?
No, so the SRF, when you get approved for those loans, you spend the money up front on the project, and then you get reimbursed from the state. But the money that the state reimburses you for it's not revenue to the city. You have to pay it back. Basically, typically, most common with grants is basically you apply for a grant, you spend the money, you get reimbursed. When you get the reimbursement, it's like federal revenue or state revenue. In this case, it's not state revenue. It's basically money owed to the state. So the way the city had it recorded, they recorded it as a revenue item. So really, showing that as a revenue item would be inaccurate on your CAFR because it's not revenue. It's not anything the city earned. You have to pay it back. So basically, what we did is moved it from the revenue account to the liability account to make sure that the liability was accurate in your CAFR.
Okay, thanks. And then the other question I have would be the items that you listed that were under the different levels of deficiency, which the material deficiency being the most severe, I guess, right? So in your opinion, I mean, what you found is, I mean, overall, are these things that you see in other cities? I mean, are these common deficiencies? Were these things that, you shouldn't see, or these I'm trying to get a feel for like how many things you found. Is that common, or were we under what you normally would find?
Four findings is a pretty good amount of findings for a city of this size. I would like to see it down to probably 2 or less. A lot of it was turnover, and the people that were here previously that are not, I think there could have been a better job reconciling some accounts. The first item with the debt is a fairly common one because since that fund changed the way things are accounted for, going from the RDA to the successor, the way it's accounted for is different. That did happen though back in 2013, so it was common, and I still do see it, but it's something that's a pretty simple fix. The bank recs, although the items were smaller, I definitely would want the bank recs cleaned up. Having the bank recs done timely is really important. It is unfortunately a common finding for cities for whatever reason. Sometimes there are system limitations that make the bank recs difficult, or there's different people doing jobs or people that are out. But the findings you have are not uncommon, to answer your question. They do happen from time to time, but I wouldn't want to see them every year.
Okay. And then last questions regarding the additional report you were asked to do regarding the AB 3773. So you just mentioned some of the criteria that you used, which is important because I had questions about that. So that helped answer some of those, like what you looked at, what were some of the factors you looked at? Because just so you know, this has been something that's been, for lack of a better word, kind of a conspiracy in the community by several people, and not just by anybody, by some significant members of the community since this land was given, which is 50 years this year. So in 50 years, we've never really had somebody kind of take a second look, more or less, at this to kind of, we want to lay this to rest once and for all. That's the goal. That was the goal of this. I was very happy to see this request to you guys to do this secondary look at that for compliance, because we want to see if there's something there. There's not. I know that we're only looking at the 1 year, and honestly, this wasn't like a witch hunt to figure out if something had been done in the past. We'll never know. Obviously, you guys are just looking at the 1 year. So for me, I just want to be sure that we're doing what's right by the Assembly bill moving forward. We can't go back in the past and try to dig up and see who was at fault, whatever. I mean, we're talking about different councils, different city managers. I mean, we can go on back. It just, there's no sense in that. So we just want, looking forward. So one of the things you mentioned was the payroll. So you said you looked and it was like a $1.9 million payroll. Was that total?
Totally, that was gross for the year. Okay. So basically we basically analyzed a lot of the payroll registers throughout the year. The last one of the year, June 30th, had about 113 employees that were just Parks and Rec employees. A lot of them are seasonal and part-time. They work at the pool or the different centers. But basically the gross payroll on that amount was about 80,000. So if you annualize that number, that's about 1.8 million. But like I said, sometimes you have more employees in the summer, when the pool's open, and less in the off season. So the gross pay, I would say, is about 1.8 million. And then with that, those employees have benefits. There's pension costs out of that fund. So the bulk of the expenses in that fund really are coming from the payroll.
Okay. So with that, I was just doing some simple math, and again, I'm not an accountant. Your knowledge of numbers and accounting is like apples and oranges to mine. Okay, so just bear with me if I ask stupid questions. But so 1.9 million in payroll total, and you were talking about the central service costs, which are part of the cost allocation plan that are pulled out. It was about 900,000, which mainly is a percentage of use of city manager, city attorney, all that. I know what the central service costs are, but 900,000 is roughly half that number. We have 4 departments. Doesn't seem a little heavy that half of that to cover that payroll cost is coming out of just Parks and Rec?
So the number is large, I would agree, but looking at the way the cost allocation plan was constructed, they're basing it off agenda items, and basically what the departments are taking are city attorney, city clerk, the finance department, and general admin costs. The number is large, but what Wildan used is usually a common way to come up with a cost allocation plan based on agenda items related to Parks and Rec. So when we looked at it, it looked like they calculated it the same way that we would calculate it.
So it was calculated, you feel it was calculated accurately according to the cost allocation plan, but not so much like, you're not agreeing with the cost allocation plan, you're just agreeing that it looked appropriate with the cost allocation plan.
Yeah, the number they used was and I'm not disagreeing with the cost allocation plan, but we don't do cost allocation plans, so as far as if the methodology we'll then use is acceptable or not, it's a methodology that I do see commonly using agenda items for those different departments, because there's really no other better way to reimburse the city for costs that other members that aren't involved with Parks and Rec. There has to be some sort of way to reimburse them for those costs, because there's a lot of admin time, there's finance time. And the methodology they use is a similar one that we've seen at other cities. And based on what the cost allocation plan, the transfer out that happened was tied to the dollar, to the cost allocation plan.
Okay, yeah, and it just, because I look at the finance department, so out of expenditures for the city of finance department is roughly like 13%. So the 13% of our expenditures are in the finance department. So I don't know, it just seems heavy. I know Parks and Rec is a big department, but I don't know. I personally, at some point in the future, would like to look at the cost allocation. I don't know if it's fair. It's just that fund, that department is one that, it gets subsidized by the general fund.
It does.
So we have, so every time money's being pulled out and then it shortfalls, then we always look at what's going out. You know,
Yes, really, I mean, the net transfer is it's not 900,000, because basically there's a transfer in from the general fund of about 450. So really the net's like about $500,000 that's being transferred out to the general fund. But when you think that you have 113 employees over the course of a year in Parks and Rec, I mean, there's a lot of HR time too that's being spent on those employees. So, I mean, when you have that many employees, it does make sense that there's going to be some reimbursement. But cost allocation plan is something that is good to get looked at. I think best practice is at least getting it redone every 5 years. If there's something in there that that's a hot topic or concerned about, I would say getting it done every 3 to 5 years is important to make sure that it's still accurate and the methodology they're using is appropriate.
Okay, thank you. And then my last thing is about, basically, I was actually a little disappointed that this letter regarding the, that was left on our desk, on the dais up here, that this wasn't attached originally, because I would have loved to have read it ahead of time, but it basically, just kind of glancing over it, it basically says, in a nutshell, that your audit does not provide any legal determination that the city was compliant. So I don't understand. What does it mean it doesn't provide any legal
It's
determination?
just that standard AICPA language that we are not attorneys. I'm giving you a legal determination on the.
Well, excuse me, I'm asking him, Kurt.
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah, basically what it means is that we reread the conditions and interpreted the conditions to the best of our knowledge, and given what it says in our interpretations, everything we looked at was in compliant, but we haven't analyzed it from a legal perspective, whether it's allowable or things like that. That's what it's saying.
Okay, and then the last thing here in the last paragraph, you just mentioned that you did not identify any deficiencies within internal control. This is all, of course, regarding the additional work you did for the compliance of the AB, for the Assembly Bill. It says that you didn't identify any deficiencies, but however, material weaknesses may exist that you just didn't identify. So basically, I was just kind of funny, the paragraph says, well, we didn't find any, but doesn't mean there wasn't any there to find. I mean, kind of like this is kind of a silly paragraph.
I don't disagree. It is standard language, because when you don't look at 100% of the transactions in a fund, you can't say that everything is 100% good, because when you take a sample of transactions, and every year we change our procedures and look at different things, so that's why that means there could be something that is there that we didn't find this year that maybe could pop up in future years. That's basically what it's saying.
And the reason we're asking this question is, like I said, and I'm only doing this because we all the council can agree, we all want this to be laid to rest once and for all. I mean, this is just something has been festering for a long time and coming up, and so this is our chance to try to just really make the citizens and the public, reassure them that we are following the rules on this Assembly Bill. So I would just like to last statement is just asking you, so your firm, to the best of your ability, feel that the City of Galt is compliant with the Assembly Bill 3773 according to the work that you did for the city. Is that correct?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I actually appreciate the questions. We do a lot of work on these reports, so it's good to get questions sometimes and actually be able to answer them. So. Anything else?
Of course.
I have one question. And if we have any public too, I'd like to hear from the public. So as it relates to property tax revenue and the timing of that, I got a kind of a weird, not weird, but a comment from a community member that said that revenues of the property tax revenues didn't quite match up, and I couldn't nail them down to what they were talking about, but I wanted to kind of get it out there. And I think it has to do with the timing of property tax revenues. So in one report, we may be estimating property tax revenues at, I'm just going to throw a number out there for sake of discussion, $100 for this month. But the county collects it, and then what is the timing of it usually dispersed to agencies from the county?
As far as when you receive the money, that might be a better question for. There's usually a few months. There's a lag, so it's not a report from the county that usually ties exactly to the dollar. It does take some reconciling because it takes the county a few months to remit it to the cities. So I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it's usually not an exact, because basically the county doesn't get it and remit it to me, remit it the next day. It does take a few months.
Right.
was trying to find the page he's talking about. I know what he's talking about. It was something where it was one of your graphs and it showed, and it came across and it was like,
Right.
it went from like millions to like nothing or something. It was just weird. It was a weird thing. But I don't know. Anybody else can comment? Maybe we can find it before we're done, but.
I'd just recommend to the council if you can find that location, send it over to me or Ms. Tyson, and we'll look into it and get back to you.
Yeah, and any questions you guys have after the fact, I mean, we're always available via email. Because like they said, the letters are addressed to you. You guys are charged with government, so we work for you. So anything that you guys have questions or anything you want us to look at specifically, we'd happy to look at it.
Right. It was just a huge thing, and I got it on Friday. So it's like
Last second,
you know,
so.
and someone, I'm not an accountant, so I'm just going through, just like trying to, so.
Yeah, I mean, anything passed through, counties and states, there's always a timing difference. So that's part of it. It's just some are larger than others.
While they're looking, I just would like to note on Roman numeral 2, on the third paragraph, it says the city council is responsible for, among other things, passing ordinances, adopting budgets, hiring the city manager and city attorney. We might want to add the city clerk or administrator in there. So she's missing.
Can't forget about her.
That's Roman numeral 2, or
So yeah, we can note that for next year's CAFR to include that.
find it.
So, do you have a question? Anybody have a question? No? So just to be clear, so what we got with our audit that had to do with the 3773 was the letter of you stating that you whatever.
Correct.
The actual report, because when I looked at your contract and the scope of work says that you were going to provide a separate report. So it's not really a report, it's a letter? I mean, is that what we're looking at?
Well, because the reason that's not really necessary, unless something that you specifically want, is because since it's a major fund in your CAFR, basically all we would be doing is extracting the fund that's already in your CAFR and putting it on a separate piece of paper. The numbers wouldn't change. It's the exact same report. If it wasn't a major fund in your CAFR, then a separate standalone report would be beneficial. But really, since it's in your CAFR, it's already audited separately as its own separate entity, so to say.
You would have just been pulling that data out of whichever page it was. I don't have it in front of me, but that page where it lists
Exactly.
the 06 fund, you would have basically just been pulling that out and
It would
putting
be
it
the
in
exact
separate-
same numbers, the exact same funds. It would just be put on its own piece of paper. Nothing would change.
All right, thank you.
Anything else? You have a great memory, by the way. Anything else? No. All right. I'll read it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion to accept the City of Galt Comprehensive Annual Financial Report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2018, memorandum on internal control and require communications for the year ending June 30th, 2018, and independent accountant's report on compliance with Proposition 111, 2017-18 appropriations limit increment.
I have a question, sorry, before we do that vote.
Okay, discussion?
So our voting on the accepting is just that we're voting that we've accepted, that we've received the audit report, right? Not that we're like, because again, it's a 200-some page report, I haven't even read through so if we have questions regarding it or whatever, we still have to bring it back in a future item or come to you guys and ask.
Correct. You are accepting the CAFR tonight, but you can certainly ask additional follow-up questions and send them, and then that's the time when we can bring them. We can, disperse them as needed, and so a lot of it will just depend on other questions that might come up and how we would address
I'm only
that.
asking because we have one council member gone tonight, and so basically, I just want to understand, my vote is accepting it, is am I consenting that I'm satisfied with the work was done, or I'm voting that I'm accepting it, that we've received it, and I have it in my possession. I'm just trying to understand what I'm voting on.
Well, you are accepting the CAFR, so this is the CAFR, so you're approving the CAFR going forward. So this will be the official CAFR. That doesn't change the ability to ask questions and request further follow-up from the auditors, and we can certainly bring that back if there's additional items that you would think the public would like to hear, other items, or, as the city manager said, you can certainly email specific questions that we can address.
Okay, thank you.
And then once we accept it, it can be included in the financial section on the website under the CAFR instead of the agenda section where it is now. So, do I have I have a motion? Do I have a motion? I don't want to say it again. Read it again.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Second?
Second.
All right, motion made by Councilmember Lozano, seconded by Councilmember Campion. Roll call vote.
Vice Mayor Farmer.
Aye.
Councilmember Campion.
Aye.
Councilmember Lozano.
Aye.
Mayor Lamson.
Aye. Motion pass 4-0. Is there any communication?
None tonight.
None tonight. City Clerk's report. Subject, Public Safety Committee appointment.
Yes, tonight, Vice Mayor Farmer has an appointment to the Public Safety Committee. The applicants were received from December 18th, 2018. Their names are James Connick, Robert Costanzo, Kelly Kagi, Shalyn Miller, and Darren Mitchell. Vice Mayor Farmer, this is your appointment.
Yes, I would like to appoint Darren Mitchell to the Public Safety Committee.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Subject, Parks and Recreation Commission appointment.
This is Councilmember Lozano's appointment to the Parks and Rec Commission. The applications were received through December 31st, 2018, and the applicants were Ernest Cason Jr., Carolyn Graham, Kelly Kagi, Teresa McCord, and Gail Weber. What is your pleasure?
I'd like to appoint Ernest Cason Jr. to the Parks and Recreation Commission.
Great, okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. Appointment of a council member to the Sacramento Public Library Authority.
Yes, this appointment was brought back in December 18th, 2018, and was tabled to a future meeting. And since that time, Vice Mayor Farmer has expressed a desire to serve on the authority. There's a short, brief summary below included in the agenda report. This needs an action.
Okay. So just get a motion to appoint.
Nominate Sean.
I'll make
Vice Mayor, okay.
I'll make a motion to nominate Vice Mayor Farmer.
Okay. And I believe a second by
Second.
Councilmember Campion. Thank you. Roll call vote, or all in favor?
Roll call vote. Vice Mayor Farmer,
Aye.
Councilmember Campion,
Aye.
Councilmember Lozano,
Aye.
Mayor Lamson.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. All right. Subject 4, what you've all been waiting for. Amend the Galt Municipal Code regarding qualifications for committee and commission members.
Yes, tonight we have Tina Hubert, Executive Assistant Administration, who's going to give the agenda report.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. On December 18th, 2018, City Council asked to bring back an ordinance allowing up to 2 commission members to live outside the city limits but within the boundaries of the Galt Joint Union High School District. Of those 2 members, the Galt Youth Commission may allow 1 member at large. The discussion included all committee and commissions to allow for consistency regarding member qualifications. City Council also asked questions regarding Measure R qualifications. The city attorney did review and confirm that City Council does have authority to amend qualifications for Measure R. Assuming there are no changes made to the ordinance this evening, adoption would occur at the February 19th meeting. The city clerk's office will advertise for the remaining appointments using the new qualifications, and applications will be brought back to council at the March 5th meeting with an effective date of March 19th. Are there any questions?
So we're going to vote on it now, vote on it February 19th. When are we advertising? Right after that, or?
Correct, after February 19th.
Okay.
Once it's adopted.
And for how long will you advertise?
We'll go all the way, we can bring it back as early as March 5th. We'll give about 2 weeks for applications.
Yeah,
Take
no, I
them
think
up all
that's
the way
sufficient.
I think we
Yeah.
should do that.
up until the meeting date and bring them before.
So then theoretically, we could make appointments on the 5th?
You can appoint March 5th, however, their position wouldn't be effective until March 19th because of the 30-day wait period on an ordinance.
Okay. So appoint on the 5th, and they'd wait 2 weeks.
I'd like to get it done on the 5th. Anybody else? Okay with that?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I just have a couple questions on the ordinance.
Okay. Go ahead.
There's two committees, or 2 committees that I am not comfortable with going with county residents, and that one is the Measure R oversight. I mean, that is for the police department within the city of Galt. Outside of the city limits, it's the sheriff's department. And that would also align with the Public Safety Committee because it deals with issues related to the city. So if we're going to move forward with this, I would, in the first motion, like to have those two items deleted and then vote on those two separately. If it's the pleasure of the council to move forward to include as amended in the report.
So you want to vote on them separately, like vote on Measure R being one way and then vote separate public safety? You want to?
Correct. Or the initial motion could include all of them but those two, and I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. Well, I would agree, my comment, I would agree with you on the Measure R. I actually was thinking of that myself because I understand the dynamics of that, and it is specifically police. However, don't agree with you on the public safety because I do think that, you know, even those people live in the county, they do, you know, their kids go to school here, they drive here, they shop here, they spend a lot of their time here. So public safety is a very dynamic subject. It has to do with speeding and traffic and safety at schools and a lot of things that do affect those county people. So that's my input on that. But I do agree with you on the Measure R personally.
Yeah. Well, then, to that extent, I would make a, well, why don't you, someone else can make a motion or discuss it.
I tend to agree. The safety committee, there was a former police chief I was thinking would be great on the committee who's still active here in town in church, but he lives right outside the city limits. Not that I have an appointment coming up, but I was thinking it'd be nice to just leave the option up to council for that. So Measure R, I agree with that.
I'd agree also with Measure R just because that is specifically for the police department here. I think that's important to pull that one out. And with public safety, I agree that, you know, it doesn't stop, that doesn't stop at the city limits. The money coming in for the police department, I think legally, their jurisdiction is the city, their primary jurisdiction is the city limits. But there are some things that in public safety that can be addressed with the Public Safety Committee that deal with just over the city limits county line. I mean, we have, you know, we have counties surrounding us, and so I think it would be important to continue the Public Safety Committee the way it is in the staff report. So I would make a motion to accept staff's report with the exception of the Measure R Oversight Committee.
One more comment, Rich, before you, sorry. I do. I still stick with my position on the Measure R, but it did come to me just in a moment ago but it is a sales tax bond, and so we really don't know how many people from the county and how many people from the city limits are spending money in town. That money's coming from sales tax. So just to put out there to the public, I do acknowledge that there is county people that are probably paying into that bond measure. I mean, right?
And there's probably people from Los Angeles.
Right.
That's true too. I understand that. Yeah, I'm not changing my position on it. I just want to state that for those people that are like, well, we pay into that too, and they're at home, you know, yelling at the TV right now. So,
I'd like to make an alternate motion, which I'll let you go to procedures.
So I don't think we had a second on the first motion, but if you were making a substitute motion, that would be the first motion voted on. So it's the last goes first.
Okay.
You can have up to 3 motions.
I would motion that, well, actually, I don't need to make a motion because if we don't do anything to Measure R, it stays the same.
Can I second Councilman Lozano's motion then?
I withdraw.
I just wanted to be sure also there was no public comment. Is that correct? Thank you. Seeing none. I think you're good.
Okay.
so then I can make a motion to approve the changes, and those changes basically not.
Rich made Councilman
I'm
Lozano
sorry,
made the
okay.
motion.
Yeah, he made.
I seconded. This is just for without the Measure R right now.
That's the motion.
So, correct. The motion. Sorry. The motion would be to introduce the ordinance amending the Galt Municipal Code as identified, excluding the Chapter 3.40 Measure R Oversight Committee.
I second the motion.
Lamson already did.
Oh.
But thanks. Roll call vote?
Vice Mayor Farmer.
Aye.
Councilmember Campion.
I have to say no, because I still disagree with public safety, although I do agree with excluding Measure R.
Councilmember Lozano?
Aye.
Mayor Lamson?
Aye. Vote 3-1, passes. Councilmember Campion, would you like to make the next motion, the amended for Measure R?
Not necessarily.
Or you don't want?
No, we don't do anything. It just stays the same.
Oh, for the public, no, it does?
Nope. Yeah, just
Okay.
remains the same. We don't do anything.
Thank you. Mic drop. Okay. Thank you, Tina.
Thank you.
All right. Comments by staff, which I noticed they don't do it. So Mr. Clarkson is all by himself, I see.
I can make up for that.
No.
We have we're sending out some mailers. We've done it a couple weeks ago, and we'll be doing another one in a week to talk about the sustainability groundwater management agency that we have, and getting people information on the GSAs and what we're doing for the groundwater requirements by the state. And also, we do have some little over a dozen people in town who own residential wells that we're also letting them know, and that they can get a copy of a survey. And we have some information there for to collect on their wells if they have it. And it's all voluntary at this point. So that's all I have. Thank you.
How do you like that seat? All right, Ms. Tyson?
Thank you. I want to say that I very much appreciate your attention and interest in the audit report. It's a lot of work by staff and obviously by the auditors, and I appreciate your interest in it.
Thank you. Ms. Hall?
We have a lot of recruitments right now.
Oh.
Some of the full-time recruitments we have are for police officer, a county manager, plant maintenance mechanic, and wastewater plant supervisor. We will be holding a county manager interviews on February 14th, and then we have a plant maintenance mechanic interviews coming up on the 8th. Some of the part-time positions we have available right now are for the Parks Worker 1, Rec Worker 2 for the market, Rec Worker 2 for ACES and SOARS program, and then also for the swim coach. So I encourage anybody who's interested to please go to our website for further details and to apply.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Solis, we haven't heard from you this meeting.
Yeah, I'm sorry for taking so much of your time tonight. I did want to thank my staff for the Winterbird Festival for all their hard work that they put into it. Jackie Garcia has been doing a great job in the 9 months that she's been here, so I especially want to acknowledge her. But all of my staff are incredible, and they did such a great job. Other thing I wanted to remind everybody is that just because it's sunny doesn't mean that the fields are in playable shape or can be out there. To call the field condition line to see if the park is open, 209-366-7190. And that's it.
All right. Thank you.
Just have two items. On January 31st, Galt PD helped with the county program called Point in Time, which is a count of homeless in different communities. So ours was conducted on the 31st, and that consisted of county welfare and some volunteers from Galt, and that number will come out, the end report will come out in June. And then on February 13th, Galt PD, along with the Galt Unified High School District, is going to be co-hosting a gang awareness presentation at Galt High from 6:30 to 8 at the auditorium. It's open to the public. We encourage anyone that's interested to please come out, and especially parents. It's going to be a very informative presentation on what we're seeing in Galt, and some awareness for parents, some tell signs of maybe some of the kids that they know, whether they are or not possibly involved. So,
A lot of time they don't even know their clothing represents. The parents don't know, and so. Mr. Palazzo?
Well, I was very pleased to hear that finally AB 373 is put to rest, and we can move on with what we do best, and it's running a city. Also, I sent a press release out to the council and then the press tonight of hiring our public works director. It's a great process. I'm very pleased. Michael Selling will be joining us on February 25th. He's done a lot of research in our community. He's actually sitting in our audience tonight. And Mr. Selling, you may want to raise your hand. Say hi. So he's been sitting in the audience for the last couple meetings, and we're looking forward to having him on board.
All right. Ms. Hood?
I don't have anything further. Thank you.
All right.
Nothing more?
Nothing more? No. Councilmember Lozano?
Yeah, I just have a couple of things. I attended the Measure R committee meeting, what was it, a week ago? Very informative, and I want to thank Chief and Claire and her staff for the presentation. It was exactly what I needed that day in terms of understanding kind of the history of Measure R and kind of where we're going from here. One of the things that was brought up was accountability from what the police department's spending to finance, and I think that that's really, really important there. But I do believe that the finance department, presenting at those meetings is extremely important as well, because it is a finance function. And so that was really good. We also attended the Chambers beer, wine, and food event last Friday night, and that was really good. We're really well attended. Great local businesses that were there providing food and drink, and it was very well done again by the Chamber, so we appreciate the work they do. And then lastly, two more things. The Winter Bird Festival, Armando and staff did an awesome job, even when it was raining. But they had the multi-purpose room over at Fairsite all done up, and I didn't get to stay too long, but was able to see a presentation from a gentleman from Colfax from a rescue that brought all different types of animals, including hawk and alligator, which was really cool. And I think the animal that took the presentation was the reindeer. Mm-hmm. And a lot of great information on that, lots of families out there, and folks from all ages. And so it was really, really well put together. So thank you to Parks and Rec and for putting that together. And then lastly, I just want to make one comment on the agenda. I received an email from a gentleman that said that he wasn't able to pull up one of the agenda items on the agenda. So we get them through a separate mode on our tablets, and so all the items are always on the agenda. But when I went onto the city website, it was when you click agenda, you don't get the links on the agenda. You have to go to the right, and so it was a little cumbersome. So I'm wondering if we could, and maybe there's not a way to do it, but maybe marry those two so that when somebody clicks where it says agenda, all of the items are able to be seen. And so, does that make sense? I don't know if it's possible. They're separate for a reason, but
They used to be together.
Yes, with this new updated website through Vision, that is not what they offer. And that's why they're located at the bottom.
Okay. So I think I'm a problem solver, so I'm going to suggest something. Could we put a note right under where the PDF for agenda link is that says for staff reports or for agenda reports, look to the right or something like, I mean, I'm sure you'll come up with a more creative way to say that, but
That's easy fix, absolutely.
yeah, I'm just concerned that not everyone is up on technology, and so I just want to make sure that everyone has the same opportunity to see the agenda items before they come out. And that's all I have.
Well, if we're on the website, is it possible? I've asked before. I don't know if it's possible. When you try to go back and look at old reports, every commission, there could be 10 before you get to the next council report. Are we able to put all the past council reports together, and then the planning commission? That way, if you're looking for a council, you don't have to click down 10 pages?
There's actually a category right on the homepage where you can select which one you're looking for,
Okay.
and then they just populate.
Okay.
It's exactly what you're talking about.
I'll have to work on that, because I haven't been able to figure that one out.
I agree there's some challenges. I couldn't even find the CAFR. I couldn't find it. I went on there and it was actually under city meetings, and then you go city meetings, then you go city council, and you go under report, then you go, and it was like 7 clicks, but if you searched under finance or reports, or even if you use the search bar and typed CFR or financial report, whatever, you couldn't get it. And so I had people emailing me saying, where's the report? It's on the site. And I'm like, I guess it's not. Well, in fact, it was there, but it's cumbersome to find. So I don't know. I still think we have some challenges with the website. I mean, on some certain things. So I don't know. I agree with Rich on some things. Maybe we need to, just to be transparent if the public are not, they're not web designers and stuff. And if I struggle to find some stuff, I'm on the web quite a bit. So if I struggle to find it, then I believe that, some senior that's complaining about it would definitely have an issue. So anyways, just future thought. We can have a discussion in the future.
And do you have anything else to say?
Yeah, I do. So I attended the wine, beer, food. It was great. Thank you for your help, Armando. Thank you, Chamber. It was really good. It was well attended, just like last year. And I encourage anybody that's watching at home, if you have a business, please come out. And the businesses that did participate, thank you. There was a lot of local businesses participated with food. And I would have liked to have seen representatives out there with their food. Would have been nice, but I feel like it's a good event. And it's going to continue to be good in the future. So the only thing I would like is touch on the teen center thing. I think it's a great idea. I remember the Boys and Girls Club very vividly. I actually donated a lot of equipment to that Boys and Girls Club, only to see it demolished in the building. And it was thousands of dollars in phone equipment that I donated, and it was just demolished. And so it's been a sore subject with that for me for a long time. I feel like it is a huge need here. I was sad to hear Miss McFadden tell me that some people had reached out to her. Some actually ex-city officials had reached out to her and told her that there's no way the city's going to be able to. The city doesn't have any money for anything like that. It's just a waste of time to try to go to the city. I don't agree with that. I think the city needs to find a way to make it happen. I think there's a lot of money can be found privately. I've actually talked to a couple private industries. I feel like there's going to be a big outcry of, or a big outpouring of people that are going to be willing to help get something off the ground. But I think that the city has to be, involved in it as well, because I think it's a huge thing for the community. So what I would like to see is if the council would like, I would actually be more than happy to be that representative to reach out and be the liaison with them.
I would suggest, since this isn't on the agenda, that you would bring it back to for that
So
discussion.
can we bring this back as an agenda item and discuss more how we can move forward to get something moving forward on this?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd be in favor of bringing it back. I think we should look at it a little more globally as we bring it back, and I don't want to discuss it too much. But I think maybe a building that has area for teens and seniors. I think we also need some kind of senior facility, and much discussion with that. But and it may sound a little strange right now, but I think to put it on the agenda as a teen center I would like to add
or suggest that maybe we have a discussion on our strategic plan and to get it. If there's a priority here that the council wants to pursue, let's talk about it there, and then bring that back to a council meeting after the strategic plan process, so you can.
How long does that process take, by the way, just since you're mentioning that? I mean, if that's something that we stressed in a strategic plan that was a priority, I mean, are we talking about, because what I don't want to do is I don't want to prolong the process of getting something like that off the ground for 6 more months, is what I'm getting at.
Well, strategic plan schedule is March 8th. It's a Friday.
Okay.
In a
So we
month.
can start talking about then?
Yeah, so you kind of start talking about then. I mean, something like this is, building a building.
Well, we're not talking about building a building. I mean, that's
Yes.
there's other options. I'm just saying, I just want to bring it back as an agenda item to discuss, to get the ball rolling.
At your pleasure.
Yeah, please.
Strategic plan or
The,
what direction?
the teen center, how much council can get behind it, or,
What are you going to bring
Rules.
back exactly?
Right.
I guess?
Right.
I think I'm okay with talking about the strategic plan, and then we can maybe, if at that point we decide we need to maybe put it on the agenda for whatever reason, maybe the people want to come back and present a formal idea of what they've gathered so far. I don't know, so let's just wait for the strategic plan. March 8th is around the corner. I'm okay with that. In the meantime, I'll be in touch with them and let them know what we're doing on it, that we're going to be talking about on March 8th.
okay. Done?
I'm done.
Okay. I too attended the beer and wine event. It was great, and the Bird Festival, as usual, was wonderful. Apparently, it didn't rain as much, so I wish more people would have come out. I was a little disappointed that the restaurant owners didn't come and serve us their food and meet us and say hi. But what night was the event? Friday. And what's your busiest night if you own a restaurant? Friday and Saturday, because I actually hit up some of the restaurant owners. They're like, it's our busiest night. I had to be at the restaurant. So I get that. So thank you once again for doing the Bird Festival, and thank your staff. And then, like I said, we had a teen center with Vice Mayor Singleton before we used some rooms over at Fairsight, which are probably still available, which we can probably work with them if they want to start up. So just the thought. Okay. Anything else? Any public comment? This meeting's adjourned.